Chapter 147. The situation there doesn't seem to be right. Elder Sun noticed that not long after the black-winged heaven-devouring python charged towards the mountain peak, it suddenly stopped. From afar it looked very strange. "I'll go there now. You guys must be careful here." After Elder Sun reminded them, he quickly left and headed straight for the mountain. Mu Hongyu watched in a daze, her eyes red. If it wasn't for us, Luyu wouldn't have." She choked and couldn't continue speaking. Big drops of tears kept falling. She had always been competitive and never cried in front of others. She always felt that she was weak, but now she couldn't care less. The guilt and sadness in her heart were like seawater that surrounded her, making it hard for her to breathe. Sinhu's face was also very pale. In the end, he walked to the side and punched the tree. Gu Mifeng was the calmest one. "She will be fine." Hearing this, everyone turned to look at him. Mu Hongyu couldn't help but ask, "Really? Mingfeng, how can you be so sure?" Gu Mifeng looked calm and didn't say anything. How could such a decisive and intelligent woman allow him to fall into such a passive state? Her abilities were definitely not what they had seen before. She was too mysterious, as if she knew everything. Didn't it mean that she could escape unscathed after offending the crown prince and the Chu family? Deep in his heart, he had an inexplicable confidence in her, even though he didn't know where this confidence came from. But they just had to wait. Si Ting glanced at him, a dark glint flashing across his long and sharp eyes. Then he retracted his gaze and looked at the mountain. His hands slowly clenched in his sleeves. He also knew that Chu Luiyue was hiding her abilities. But that was a 7th-grade black flying python. What did she have to do to return safely? Elder Sun approached silently, and soon reached the foot of the mountain. As he was worried that he would attract attention, he didn't dare to walk in the air. He could only hide in the forest. Although he wasn't discovered, the foot of the mountain and half of the mountain were occupied by fiends. If he continued forward, he would definitely be discovered. Elder Sun looked at the group of demonic beasts in front of him, and he was secretly anxious. The entire mountain had already been surrounded. If he wanted to break through from the outside, it was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Not to mention the black-winged heaven-devouring python. Just the demonic beasts outside attacking together would be difficult for him to handle. However, Chu Luiyue and the others were still up there. He found a secluded spot with a better view and looked up the mountain again. From here, the situation above could be seen even more clearly. However, with just a glance, Elder Sun's heart skipped a beat. Halfway up the mountain, it was chaos. Chu Luiyue and the black heaven-swallowing python were confronting each other from afar. The black-winged heaven-swallowing python curled up into a ball and continuously flung out its crazy power. It looked extremely terrifying. On the other side, Chu Luiyue seemed to want to leave, but he was stopped by another person who hugged his leg tightly. Elder Sun took a closer look and realized that the person was Gu Mingzhu. What was she doing? Since she was also here, why didn't she leave with Chu Luiyue? Instead, she was holding her back. It looked like not only did she not help her fellow disciple, Chu Luiyue, but she was also helping the black heaven-swallowing python. Elder Sun was furious and wanted to rush over immediately. This Gu Mingzhu was really crazy. Chu Luiyue wanted to shake off Gu Mingzhu, but Gu Mingzhu seemed determined to hold her back in exchange for a chance to survive. Although the running and torture these few days had consumed most of her energy, it did not cause her too much injuries. Compared to Chu Luiyue, she was even better. Therefore, under her persistence, Chu Luiyue was actually unable to shake her off several times. On the other side, the wound on the black heaven-swallowing python's body kept expanding. However, as the water droplet's power was gradually depleted, it could finally breathe. It raised its head, and its vertical eyes were filled with sinister resentment. Even Gu Mingzhu was shocked when she saw it. She was even more afraid and shouted even more urgently, I'll help you hold off Chu Luiyue. You let me go, okay? I beg you." The black heaven-swallowing python endured the pain and hissed. Chu Luiyue felt a buzzing sound in her ears. It was as if a small mountain had suddenly pressed down on her shoulders. The strong pressure made it difficult for her to move. Her heart sank. This black heaven-swallowing python seemed to have recovered. Next, it would probably take revenge crazily. At this moment, she had used up all her energy and had no strength to fight back. She lowered her gaze and looked at the black heaven-swallowing python's abdomen. There was a huge wound there. It was dripping with blood and looked very terrifying. It was left by that water droplet. She secretly gritted her teeth. If there was another water droplet, she would definitely win. Just as this thought flashed through her mind, the black heaven-swallowing python suddenly moved. This time, it did not go forward directly. Instead, it rose into the air. It flapped its wings and a strong wind blew. It suddenly opened its mouth. A sharp whistle pierced through the clouds and fog. Chu Liuyue's heart trembled, and a strong sense of uneasiness welled up. The next moment, the originally clear sky suddenly darkened. A circular black hole appeared on top of its head. The surrounding drifting clouds were rapidly dragged into it. As those things kept pouring in, the black hole also kept expanding. Soon, it had expanded to the size of the entire mountain. Not long after, the gravel on the mountain swayed and started to fly up one after another. Finally, they were all swallowed by the vortex. Chu Liuyue's heart harshly sank. This was the black heaven-swallowing python's ultimate killer move. Heaven swallowing. Using this move consumed a lot of its energy, but at this moment it was clearly planning to go all out. Chu Liyue kicked Gu Mingzhu away, and then stabbed the dagger into the mountain wall beside her. A strong suction force swept over. Gu Mingzhu's body flew up uncontrollably. At this moment, she finally realized that something was wrong. Once she was swallowed by that strange black hole, she would definitely die. She hurriedly looked around and wanted to grab something, but it was already too late. No, I can't die. I've already helped you hold back Chu Liyue just now. Why do you still want to kill me? Gu Mingzhu was in pain and panic. Her voice was shrill. The black heaven-swallowing python did not even look at her. It was not interested in such an ant at all. Gu Mingzhu felt that the force on her body was getting stronger and stronger. She could not help but raise her head. Only then did she realize that she was already in front of the black hole. It was pitch black inside like an abyss. Once she entered, she would be doomed eternally. Her face was pale. She wanted to escape, but it was futile. No. The next moment, her body was completely swallowed up. In an instant, it was as if thousands of blades were crushing her body. Ah! An extremely shrill and miserable cry reverberated through the mountain. However, it quickly dissipated without a trace. Crack! A crack suddenly appeared on the mountain wall where Chu Liyue's dagger was. Her body slid forward uncontrollably. The black heaven-swallowing python hissed again. The black hole in the sky spun even more crazily. The mountain wall beside Chu Liyue suddenly collapsed. She lost her foothold and was instantly swept away by the terrifying power. She was dragged towards the terrifying vortex. A hint of satisfaction flashed in the black heaven-swallowing python's eyes. As long as it crushed Chu Liyue looked at the darkness that was getting closer and closer. She could even see the black force entwining with each other. The next moment, her body was completely swallowed up. The darkness that made one despair surged from all directions. However, just as the surrounding force was about to strangle her to death, a white figure suddenly appeared. A slender and fair hand tore through the boundless darkness and gripped her tightly. That hand was as warm and cool as usual, but Chu Liyue suddenly felt very hot. The scorching temperature spread from the point of contact all the way to the bottom of her heart. The next moment, she fell into a warm and broad embrace. The violent and terrifying force was instantly isolated outside. She had not seen the person's face clearly, but that familiar cold fragrance made her feel inexplicably at ease. She could not help but raise her head. Rongxiu. In the darkness, she could not see his face, but she was incomparably certain that it was him. The person who held her in his arms laughed softly, as if he was very happy. Chu Liyue could even clearly feel the vibration of his chest. Your eyesight is much better. You don't need to look to know that it's this prince. Chu Liyue's ears suddenly felt hot. It was dark here and she could not see anything. But he deliberately said that she had good eyesight. He was clearly making fun of her. If she was not too familiar with him, how could she recognize him with just a hand and an embrace? Why did you come? It's too dangerous here. At this moment, Chu Luyue remembered that Rong Xiao had directly entered the black vortex with her. Rong Xiao's hand gently brushed her back and shoulder. It was sticky to the touch. She did not know how much blood she had lost. His heart seemed to be ruthlessly stabbed by something, and his movements paused. It's precisely because it's dangerous that I came. Digression February. In view of the fact that His Highness Princely must appear today, the update will be late. Cough cough, there will be a 5th update later. Rongxiao, ha. Mobile users please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 148. Chu Luyue was held in his arms. She could clearly feel his heart beating in his chest, and his breath on her forehead when he spoke. He said that it was precisely because it was dangerous that he had to come. This sentence was said so lovingly, but so naturally. It was as if it was the most natural thing for him to do. However, everyone in this world cherished their lives. Who would do so much for another person without reservation? Even to the extent of disregarding the danger, regardless of life or death. Chu Luyue's hand suddenly clenched the front of his clothes and said in a low voice, Rongxiao, I really thought I was going to die just now. That kind of overwhelming darkness, that kind of helplessness and despair. She had experienced it once, and it was deeply engraved in her mind. She could not forget it. Whenever she thought of it, her heart would ache. Even her bones hurt. Rongxiao didn't dare to touch her wound. He carefully held her waist with one hand and caressed her hair with the other as he said softly, Don't worry. I'm here. Don't be afraid. Chu Luyue's eyes suddenly became hot. Her heart ached, and she felt uncomfortable. If at that time someone also said to her, I'm here. Don't be afraid. The flames crazily spread through her body. It was too painful. She closed her eyes and suddenly moved closer. She gently pressed her forehead against his chest. Rongxiao suddenly stopped. Rongxiao, why me? A muffled voice came. This was not the first time Chu Luyue asked this question. But this time it was obviously different. Rongxiao kissed her forehead and whispered in her ear. His voice was low and gentle. You're worth it. The person in his arms did not speak. Rongxiao said word by word. I have a lifetime to prove that you're worth it. This time she did not believe. This time she did not believe. However, one day she would believe. Chu Luyue still did not speak. Rongxiao knew her character best. He knew that she could not completely trust him in a short time. But he had enough patience. Hold on tight. Chu Luyue guessed that he was going to break out of the encirclement here. So she obediently hugged his lean waist. Although he knew that Rongxiao had been hiding his strength, his opponent was a black flying python after all. It would not be easy to deal with it. She thought for a moment and couldn't help but ask, How confident are you? Rongxiao was about to speak, when he felt the arm around his waist was exceptionally soft and warm. The person in his arms was at the age of budding, the time when a young girl was blooming her radiance. The corners of his mouth curled into a smile. I am confident, but it will take some time. Old Sun had a panoramic view of the situation halfway up the mountain. His heart sank to the bottom. The black-winged heaven-devouring python was determined to kill Chu Luyue. It had even used such a killing move. Seeing Chu Luyue being swallowed by the black vortex, Old Sun's back was drenched in cold sweat. No way. He must do it. Although there was no chance of winning, he couldn't just watch Chu Luyue die like this. Old Sun gritted his teeth and held his breath. Silver light flickered on his fingertips as he was about to set up a Xian formation. However, at this moment, there was another change in the sky. A snow-white magical beast with a muscular body suddenly appeared. It looked like a lion, but Old Sun didn't recognize what it was. In his memory, there didn't seem to be such an existence. However, one thing was undeniable. This was a high-level demonic beast. It came from the horizon at an extremely fast speed. In the blink of an eye, it had rushed to the front of the black-winged heaven-devouring python. When it saw the newcomer, the hatred in the black-winged heaven-devouring python's eyes almost overflowed. It looked as if it had accumulated hatred for a long time. Shue stared at it, and was also very angry. A few years ago, it had come here and fought with this fellow. At that time, the black-winged heaven-devouring python was still a 6th-grade demonic beast, and was beaten black and blue by it. It didn't expect that a few years later, this fellow would actually attack Chu Luyue. It was really tired of living. Roar! Shue Shue's angry roar almost shook the forest. All the demonic beasts felt a vast pressure coming and couldn't help but be filled with fear. This demonic beast that suddenly appeared seemed to be even stronger than the black-winged heaven-devouring python. The level suppression in their bones and blood caused them to crawl on the ground, not daring to move. When the black-winged heaven-devouring python saw this scene, it was filled with hatred. With a swing of its long tail, it wrapped around Shue Shui. Shue Shui quickly jumped and dodged its attack in a few seconds, arriving in front of it. Then, its claws slammed towards the black-winged heaven-devouring python's head. Pa! Flesh and blood splattered everywhere. The black-winged heaven-devouring python's huge body flew out uncontrollably and smashed heavily on the mountain. Several cracks appeared on the mountain. Half of the mountain was on the verge of collapse. Old Sun was dumbfounded. This is two high-level demonic beasts fighting? Roar! Shue Shui approached again. Without waiting for it to get up, it pressed down and beat it up again. With a claw, it directly tore off a large piece of its scales and flesh. The black-winged heaven-devouring python hissed in pain. The strength of both sides intertwined and collided fiercely. Rumble! The huge mountain was actually starting to collapse. Countless demonic beasts at the foot of the mountain started to flee in all directions. The entire Wanling mountain was in chaos. Old Sun wanted to take advantage of the chaos and go forward, but he bumped into a group of golden-eyed demonic beasts. They seemed to have been provoked by something. When they saw Old Sun, they rushed forward without hesitation. They seemed to want to risk their lives with him. Old Sun had a bad feeling. These demonic beasts seemed to have gone crazy. He was entangled with the golden-eyed demonic beasts. He wanted to break through the encirclement to save people, but these demonic beasts seemed to not care about their lives and trapped him tightly. Old Sun hurriedly looked up and saw the black vortex in the sky explode. He suddenly paused, and his face turned pale. On the other side, Si Ting and the rest also saw this scene, and were all speechless. Mu Hongyu turned around and covered her mouth, but her shoulders could not help but tremble. They are here. A few teachers suddenly rushed over, looking anxious. Retreat! The demonic beasts in Wanling Mountain are crazy. We have to leave as soon as possible. No. Lu Yu is still there. Sinhu roared angrily. Before he could finish speaking, he passed out. A teacher supported him and said with a frown, "Take them all away. We can't stay here for long." Si Ting suddenly turned around and walked into the depths of the forest. Digression. Would you believe me if I said that I got a disease that makes me sleepy whenever I look at a computer? Chapter 149. Si Ting. Stop right there. A teacher quickly stepped forward and blocked his way. It's so dangerous over there. How can you go? Si Ting's handsome face seemed to be covered with a layer of frost, and he looked exceptionally cold. The teacher was stunned when he saw him like this, but he still insisted. Now that two high-level fiends are fighting, the entire Wanling Mountain is going to be in chaos. If you go now, you'll just die. Even if something happens, there's still Elder Sun. We have to leave as soon as possible. Si Ting said coldly. There are still people who haven't come out. What time is it now? How can you still care about others? If this drags on, we might not even be able to leave safely. When the teacher behind them saw this, he couldn't stand it anymore and asked with a frown. He frowned and asked, Si Ting, you've always been calm and collected. What's wrong with you today? Si Ting's lips moved, and he clenched his jaw. Boom, 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 boom. The black whirlpool in the sky completely collapsed and turned into countless streaks of black light that scattered in all directions. At the same time, there were all kinds of fiends' sharp roars, which made one panic. Let's go. The teacher did not hesitate and grabbed Si Ting's shoulder. A few teachers joined forces and forcefully brought them away. Not long after they turned and left, there was a loud boom. Si Ting's heart skipped a beat. He looked back and saw that the mountain had completely collapsed. The battle between Shue Shui and the black flying python was very intense. The violent force caused the entire mountain to collapse, and the forest was in a mess. However, If someone could take a closer look, they would realize that this battle was completely one-sided. The black flying python was at a complete disadvantage. It did not even have the strength to retaliate. After a few rounds of fighting, its body was already covered in injuries. Its originally beautiful and hard scales were almost all pulled out. There were a few bloody holes in its abdomen, and blood was gushing out. Even its head was smashed open and dripping with blood. It looked very miserable. Its initial arrogance had completely dissipated. Only endless regret and fear were left in its eyes. It really regretted it. Ever since it was beaten black and blue by Shue, it had been full of resentment and brooding. This Wanling mountain range was its territory. How could it allow others to behave atrociously? In the past few years, it had been holding its breath and cultivating in seclusion. Finally, it had broken through from rank 6 to rank 7. Now that it had met Zhang Xian once more, it had made up its mind to wipe away the humiliation it had suffered in the past. However, who could have known that Zhang Xian's strength had increased even more than it had? Previously, it was still able to withstand a few dozen moves, but this time, it was completely defeated. Most importantly, it was in front of so many magical beasts in Wanling Mountain. He had completely lost all his face. Pa! Shue bit its tail and flung it out. The black flying python drew a long trail of blood on the ground, before finally smashing into a pile of rocks. Its body was covered in dust and blood. It was on the verge of death, unable to move, as if it would lose all signs of life in the next moment. Shue looked at it, but there was still anger in its eyes. From the beginning to the end, it did not take this thing seriously, but it did not expect it to hold a grudge. He even wanted to kill Chu Luyue. If he didn't hit it, who would he hit? Just as it was about to continue its lesson, it suddenly paused and turned around. In the void, there was a transparent ripple. Soon after, a tall and slender figure walked out from within. It was Rongxiu. He was carrying a woman in his arms. It was Chu Luyue. Shue's eyes were filled with guilt and pity when it saw the bloodstains on Chu Luyue's clothes and the shocking wounds. It quickly ran over, wanting to take a closer look at her. Rongxiu glanced at it. Shue suddenly stopped in its tracks and lowered its head in self-reproach. Chu Luyue's eyes suddenly lit up. Only then did she realize that they had already escaped from the black whirlpool. She looked at Rongxiu in a daze. He actually really did it. Just what level had his strength reached? Sensing the movement beside her, she turned her head and saw Shue. Then, she saw the black flying python lying in a pile of rocks not far away. It was unknown whether it was dead or alive. Its body was full of wounds, and there was almost no part of it that was unscathed. It could be seen how ruthless Shue was. Chu Luyue opened her mouth. Shue was actually so powerful. It could actually kill a 7th-grade demonic beast to such an extent, but it was unscathed. When this matter is over, you can go back and receive your punishment. Rongxiu said lightly. Shue let out a low whimper and lowered her head even more. Chu Luyue tugged at Rongxiu's clothes. All right. How are you going to punish Shue? It was the one who dealt with the black flying python. Rongxiu narrowed his eyes. It stayed with you for too long, so you have a trace of its aura on you. This black flying python has a grudge with it. It sensed its aura on you, so it attacked you. Chu Luyue was stunned for a moment. So it was because of this. She didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She was puzzled about the black flying python's hostility towards her. She didn't expect it to be because of this. Forget it, Shue didn't do it on purpose. It can only be said that it was too coincidental. Chu Luyue liked Shue very much. Although it caused such a blunder, she couldn't blame Shue at the end of the day. Shue felt even more ashamed and blamed itself. Its tail also hung down. Yes, but I only stayed with Shue for a short period of time. It's not my demonic beast. Why do I have its aura on me? Chu Luyue muttered doubtfully. Even if there was, it should be very faint. Logically speaking, it shouldn't cause the black flying python to have such a strong murderous intent. Shue's body stiffened. Rongxiu's eyes darkened. There seemed to be a layer of fog between his eyebrows. He couldn't see clearly and said lightly, "It's probably because we spent too much time together." Just try not to meet in the future. Shueshue looked up in shock. It couldn't believe that it had been betrayed just like that. During those nights, it had carefully brought Rongxiu's power over, and then carefully injected it into Chu Liyue's body to nourish and heal her Yuan meridian. Even if it didn't take credit, it should have worked hard. Why did it turn against its demonic beast now? The aura in Chu Liyue's body didn't belong to it. It was clearly Rongxiu's. It and Rongxiu had a master-servant relationship. Their auras were connected. It was fine that the black flying python had mistaken Chu Liyue. But it actually misunderstood Chu Liyue. Shueshue wanted to protest, but it suddenly met Rongxiu's cold gaze. It immediately became obedient. Chu Liyue nodded and didn't pursue the matter. She looked around and realized that the originally steep mountain peak had been leveled to the ground. She sighed in her heart. The power of a battle between high-level demonic beasts was indeed shocking. Rongxiu found a clean place and put her down. He pressed one hand on her back and continuously injected force into her. Chu Liyue shook her head. These are all superficial wounds. You don't have to do this. Rongxiu's other hand gently covered her eyes. Rest for a while. We'll leave when you're done packing. Chu Liyue's vision darkened. She couldn't help but ask. Pack what? Rongxiu's lips curled up slightly, but the smile didn't reach the corners of his eyes. Of course it's time to clean it up. Of course it's time to clean it up. Chapter 150. Outside Wanling Mountain. Tianlu Academy students and teachers were waiting in silence. The atmosphere was stagnant, and no one said a word. The silence was suffocating. Some students were seriously injured and in a coma. Although some were fine, they were injured. At a glance, almost no one came out unscathed. Time ticked by, and the waiting became more and more unbearable. Occasionally, some people would look at Wanling Mountain. Their faces were no longer filled with anticipation and excitement. Instead, they were filled with fear. Who would have thought that something like this would happen in Wanling Mountain? Now it seemed like it still made people feel fearful. Suddenly, the sound of wind breaking could be heard. A few figures quickly flew out of the forest. Everyone looked over. The teachers standing at the very front all revealed joyful expressions. You're finally back. There seemed to be a huge commotion in Wanling Mountain just now. What happened? That black flying python seemed to have used a killer move. It was too dangerous. Luckily you came out in time. They were waiting outside, so they could not see the situation inside. They could only vaguely hear loud noises, as if an intense battle had broken out. Two teachers went forward and handed Sun, Hu and Mu Hongyu to the people beside them to take care of. One of them sighed. Don't mention it. That black flying python seemed to have gone crazy. It sent all the fiend beasts in the mountain range to surround that mountain. Mu Hongyu and the rest had a hard time escaping. Later on, another high-level magical beast appeared and fought with the black-winged heaven-swallowing python, raising the entire mountain to the ground. If we were any later, it would have been difficult for us to come out. What? An advanced fiend beast appeared? Everyone looked at each other, their hearts filled with shock. Didn't Elder Sun say that this place was the black flying python's territory? What was the advanced fiend beast that appeared later? It actually dared to fight with it head-on? We didn't see it clearly, but it was indeed very powerful. It was even more powerful than the black flying python. Everyone was speechless. The black flying python was a 7th-grade fiend beast, and it was extremely powerful. What kind of fiend beast was more powerful than it? It was an existence that only appeared in legends. They were really unlucky this time to actually encounter such an opportunity. Where's Elder Sun? He didn't come back with you? Bai Chen glanced around and didn't see Elder Sun's figure, so he couldn't help but ask. The teachers looked a little embarrassed. After a while someone said, Elder Sun went to that mountain alone to save people. We couldn't get in touch with him. How is that possible? Isn't that too dangerous? Bai Chen frowned, but a thought suddenly flashed through his mind. Wait a minute. Save people. In addition to Mu Hongyu and the others who had already returned, there was also, where are Chu Liyue and Gu Mingzhu? The two of them are on that mountain. Master went to save them. Si Ting suddenly spoke. Everyone fell silent. Elder Sun was the strongest amongst them, but even he wasn't a match for the black-winged heaven-devouring python. If he went alone like this, it was simply Elder Sun. A teacher inadvertently raised his head and saw a familiar figure walking out of the forest. He couldn't help but call out. Everyone hurriedly looked over. Bai Chen had just heaved a sigh of relief when he saw the bloodstains on Elder Sun's body. His expression changed, and he quickly rushed forward. Elder Sun, are you injured? Elder Sun waved his hand. It's just a small injury. Bai Chen looked at his gloomy expression and suddenly felt uneasy. Elder Sun actually came back alone. Elder Sun, Lu Yu and Gu Mingzhu. Elder Sun shook his head tiredly and sighed. I'm useless. I didn't manage to save them in time. They were all sucked into the black-winged heaven-devouring python's killer move. The moment he said this, the crowd fell silent. If even Elder Sun said this, then it was almost certain that the two of them were dead. How could they possibly be a match for the black-winged heaven-devouring python? Mu Hongyu suddenly stood up. I don't believe it. If he was alive, he wanted to see him. If he was dead, he wanted to see the corpse. I'll go find her. With that, she quickly walked forward. However, before she could take 2 steps, her vision turned black and she fainted. A teacher at the side immediately went forward to check on her. Her internal and external injuries are very serious. In addition, she lost a lot of blood. It's already very difficult for her to hold on until now. She suddenly fainted because of the shock. Elder Sun, you don't have to worry too much. Give her some medicine later and let her rest more. She'll recover. Elder Sun nodded, but he still looked a little dazed. He was still regretting and blaming himself for not being able to save the two of them. Before coming, I should have checked clearly. If he had done more research and sensed that the situation in Wanling Mountain had changed, he definitely would not have brought so many students here directly, and there would not have been so many casualties. This was practically the most tragic hunt in Tianlu Academy in recent years. Elder Sun, don't blame yourself too much. No one can be sure about this kind of thing. Who knows what happened to the black-winged heaven-devouring python? It suddenly went crazy this time. Bai Chen consoled him, but he also felt terrible. He had always thought highly of Chu Luyue. Moreover, he was the one in charge of her entrance exam. Although he was not her teacher, he had always cared about her. However, he did not expect that. Elder Sun, Wanling Mountain is in chaos now. Let's hurry back to the academy. A teacher finally could not help but say. How could Elder Sun not know what to do now? However, how was he going to explain to his uncle master when he returned? Even if it was out of selfishness, he did not want to see Chu Luyue die here. After a moment of silence, he closed his eyes and finally said, Inform everyone that Tianlu Academy is to return immediately. The elders and teachers quickly took action and left in batches. Even Sun Hu and Mu Hongyu were taken away while they were unconscious. Gradually, most of the people had left. Si Ting walked to Elder Sun's side and hesitated for a moment before asking, Master, is what you said just now true? Elder Sun looked at him with a complicated gaze. He could actually see through Si Ting's thoughts. However, he let out a long sigh and patted Si Ting's shoulder. The last glimmer of light in Si Ting's eyes completely dimmed. Gu Mifeng, it's time to go. A teacher saw that Gu Mingfeng was still standing there without moving, so he spoke up. Gu Mifeng took a deep look in the direction of the mountain peak. There, the originally towering mountain peak had disappeared. Even though he was standing there, he could still feel the violent collapse of the mountain. They had agreed to meet outside the mountain, but now, even the mountain was gone. Perhaps in this life, he would never see that pair of clear and trusting eyes again. That teacher walked to his side. I know that you are upset that your sister met with an accident. However, things have already come to this. Gu Mifeng took a deep breath and turned to leave with that teacher. As the sun set in the west, everyone's figures disappeared from their original positions. Only the dense forest, under the illumination of the sunset, was strangely tranquil. A small stream extended from the forest and flowed down. The afterglow shone on it, and the water was clear and crystalline. Gradually, the stream seemed to be dyed red, and it looked exceptionally beautiful. Then, the red gradually became thicker and thicker, almost turning into a river of blood. The corpse of a golden-eyed demon beast was faintly discernible. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 151. Night fell, and a bright moon hung in the sky. The bright moonlight flowed down like water, and the branches and leaves of the trees swayed gently with the wind. The shadows cast by the trees were like seaweed swaying gently in the water, quiet and serene. Chu Luiyue was leaning against a thick tree. Beside her, Rong Xiu was also sitting on the ground, planning to help her clean her wounds. The most serious injury on her body was the broken bone in her shoulder. If it was not treated in time, it would not be good in the future. It was a good thing that even without her teaching, Rong Xiu seemed to be very familiar with this. His movements were gentle and quick. "I'm helping you set your bones. Bear with it," Rong Xiu said in a low voice as his slender hand gently pressed down on her shoulder. Chu Luiyue nodded. She had suffered this kind of injury countless times in her previous life, so it was nothing. Rong Xiu gently placed his hand on her shoulder and then pushed. Chu Luiyue's body trembled from the pain. Rong Xiu looked at her and saw that the young girl's face was pale. Because of the pain, her forehead was covered in sweat. But from beginning to end, she did not make a sound as she forcefully swallowed the pain. Rong Xiu's eyes were slightly cold. He felt a bit of regret in his heart that he did not properly torture that bastard before taking care of him. His movements were even more gentle as he took off his white coat. With a chi-la sound, he tore it into strips and wrapped Chu Luiyue's wounds. Chu Luiyue heard this sound and turned her head to look. She could not help but smile. "Your Highness, your clothes are very expensive. Isn't this too wasteful?" Rong Xiu knew that she was teasing him, so he also smiled. "It's no problem, it's just a piece of clothing. You can just compensate me with another one later." Chu Luiyue raised her brows. "You really don't want to suffer a loss. Your Highness is really stingy." Rong Xiu's movements paused as his smile deepened. "I've always been generous, but I'm stingy towards you." Chu Luiyue felt as if his heart was being gently rubbed by something. After this incident, an invisible barrier seemed to have been broken between her and Rong Xiu. Although neither of them said anything, their relationship did seem to be much closer than before. "I'm already used to His Highness' stinginess, but I'm curious about something. Why did you come so coincidentally?" This place was 2 days away from the imperial capital, so it was absolutely impossible for Rong Xiu to arrive here in an instant. That meant that it was very likely that he had arrived here a long time ago. Rong Xiu's expression did not change. Rong Xiu said that she wanted to hunt a demonic beast, and it just so happened that there was a demonic beast tied here. So I came to take a look personally. I plan to choose a suitable one and bring it back to her. Rong Xiu was the current 8th princess. She was already 13 years old this year, which was indeed the age to find a magical beast to hunt. But this kind of thing could be left to his subordinates. Why did he have to do it himself? Chu Luiyue smiled faintly. "You really care about the 8th princess." Rong Xiu did not mind that she had seen through him. Instead, he looked at her steadily. "Yes, I do care about her very much." It went without saying who he was referring to. Chu Luiyue's heart skipped a beat, and she did not know how to reply. At this moment, Xue Xue finally came back. It walked to Chu Luiyue and put down the thing in its mouth. It was the blood ferret. When Xue Xue left earlier, Chu Luiyue thought that since it was a high-level demonic beast, it should be very sensitive to the aura of other demonic beasts, so she asked it to help find this little thing. After the mountain collapsed, she actually did not have much hope in her heart, but this little thing risked its life for her, so she still remembered it. She did not expect to really find it, but at this moment, the little thing was lying on the ground motionless. Chu Luiyue checked it and found that it was still breathing weakly. She immediately heaved a sigh of relief. It was still alive. Sensing her touch, the little thing's tail suddenly moved, and then it slowly opened its eyes. Those round eyes clearly reflected Chu Luiyue's face. It looked at her in a daze and blinked its eyes, as if it had not reacted. Chu Luiyue carefully picked it up and pinched its ears. "It's okay, now we are safe." Only then did the little thing realize that it was not dreaming. Its eyes widened, and then it hugged Chu Luiyue's thumb and cried. It thought that it was already dead. It thought that it would never see her again. Chu Luyue saw that it was crying so sadly, and she found it funny and sad at the same time. Okay, come back with me. In the future, this kind of thing will not happen again, okay? This little thing was very congenial to her, and she liked it very much. Now that it was still alive, it was best to bring it back. Although it could not be treated as a magical beast to hunt, it could be treated as a pet magical beast to accompany her. When the little thing heard this, it realized that it could always be by her side in the future, and it could not help but cry even louder. After a long time, it stopped, but its body was still sobbing, and its eyes and nose were red. It looked pitiful and cute. It saw that Chu Luyue's shoulder was injured, so it obediently stayed by her side. Rongxiu looked at it from the side and suddenly said, "It's really lucky." Chu Luyue was in a good mood at this moment, and her eyes were curved. Yes. Previously, in order to help me, it was attacked by the black flying python, and then the mountain collapsed. As Chu Luyue spoke, she suddenly felt that something was wrong. This little thing was only a third-grade magical beast, and the kind that did not have much fighting power. How could it have withstood the black flying python's angry attack? Moreover, after the entire mountain collapsed, the situation was so chaotic, but it actually survived safely. Chu Luyue held it in her hand again, and looked at it over and over again. The little thing seemed to be tickled, and it rolled around happily in her hand. Chu Luyue was stunned. This little thing did not seem to be seriously injured. Other than a few scratches on its body, it was completely fine. Now that it was alive and kicking, who could imagine what it had gone through before? The most important thing was that Wanling Mountain was the black flying python's territory, and all the magical beasts here obeyed its orders due to the difference in level. The magical beast's attack was the best evidence. But this little thing seemed not to be affected. Not only did it not attack her together with the other magical beasts, but it also stood on her side and went against the black flying python. The more Chu Luyue thought about it, the more she found it strange. She carefully checked the little thing again, but did not find anything unusual. The little thing hugged her finger intimately, and its furry tail rubbed against her finger. Just as Chu Luyue was in a daze, Rongxiu suddenly stretched out his hand and took the little thing over. You need to rest now. Think about these things in the future. Chu Luyue felt that he was right, and she nodded. The little thing was suddenly forced away from the warm place, and it immediately woke up and stared fiercely at Rongxiu. Rongxiu glanced at it lightly. Humph. The little thing was frightened, and it immediately retracted its gaze, and obediently turned around to wait. Why do I smell blood on Shueshue? Chu Luyue asked curiously. Although the smell was very faint, it was indeed there, and it was obviously stronger than the smell after the black flying python was killed. Shueshue froze, and it turned around and lay on the ground, pretending that it did not hear anything. Rongxiu paused and quietly changed the topic. When you've recovered a little, we'll go back to the imperial capital tomorrow, Huiyao said. You'll get a better reading experience from love. Chapter 152. 2 days later, the teachers and students returned to the academy, but they were not as excited and happy as they were when they left. The demonic beast riot in Wanling Mountain had caused many casualties. They were already very lucky to be able to come back alive, not to mention other things. The news quickly spread in the imperial capital and caused a huge uproar. Peach Garden. Several elders and teachers gathered together. The atmosphere in the hall was very depressing. After a long time, Elder Sun sighed. Martial Uncle is in seclusion these days. When he comes out, I will report this matter and accept my punishment. Everyone looked at each other and comforted him. Elder Sun, this is indeed an accident. It's not your fault. Yes, Wanling Mountain has been very peaceful for decades. It's not the first time we went there to hunt demonic beasts. Who would have thought that this time? Elder Sun, if you didn't give the order to retreat in time, our casualties would be even greater. You don't have to blame yourself anymore. Elder Sun waved his hand, indicating that they didn't need to say anymore. A mistake is a mistake. We have to clean up the mess now. Is the casualty list out? Wen Yin immediately said, "It's done." Ignoring the minor injuries, 57 people are seriously injured, and 14 people are dead. Elder Sun slowly clenched his hand. "Why are there so many? Didn't you say there were 8 people?" "Yes, there were indeed 10 people who died at the beginning. Later, Yi Qing found the bodies of the 2 missing people under a cliff somewhere. What about the other 2? Wen Yin carefully looked at Elder Sun's expression and lowered his voice. "The remaining 2 are Chu Luiyue and Gu Mingzhu." The mountain collapsed, and the 2 of them were swallowed into the black whirlpool of the black flying python. How could they survive? Therefore, the 2 of them were also included in the death list. Elder Sun was stunned when he heard their names. He was silent for a while. "Inform their families. In addition, our academy will be fully responsible for this matter. Try your best to compensate them." "Yes." "Gu family." Slap. The crisp sound of a slap broke the silence in the room. Gu Mingfeng's head was tilted, and his face quickly became red and swollen. "How did you take care of your sister? Why is she the only one who died when so many people are fine? Gu Meifeng, explain it to me today. Otherwise, don't even think about leaving this house." The Gu family's patriarch, Gu Wenhui, was furious. He slapped Gu Mingfeng as if it wasn't enough, so he slapped him again. There was a clear palm print on Gu Mingfeng's face. He looked at Gu Wenhui expressionlessly. It was just a glance, and then he lowered his eyes. This was his so-called father. In his eyes, there was only Gu Mingzhu. As for him, he was just an eyesore. "She was not in the same team as me, so I don't know how she died. How dare you lie?" Gu Wenhui was so angry that he kicked Gu Mingfeng in the chest and shouted angrily. "Her profound formation black crystal was used, but she didn't survive. Other than you, who else knows that she has this thing on her? You've always been jealous of her. This time, weren't you the one who stole her things and tried to kill her? How could I, Gu Wenhui, give birth to a thing that is worse than an animal like you?" There was a numbing pain in his chest, and Gu Mingfeng's face was a little pale. Gu Wenhui used all his strength in this kick. If not for the fact that he was a mystic master, and his physical strength was not that strong, this kick would have taken Gu Mingfeng's life. "I don't know how she died," Gu Mingfeng repeated mechanically and indifferently. "Besides, even Elder Sun couldn't save her. Father, do you think that a profound formation black crystal can save her?" Gu Wenhui was so angry that he laughed. Good. You even know how to talk back now. Your wings have hardened. Why aren't you the one who died? Why aren't you the one who died?" Gu Mingfeng's eyelids twitched violently. In an instant, he felt that a part of his heart had completely collapsed. I should have seen it clearly. What was he? He was just a lowly existence that Gu Wenhui saw as a stain. Now this so-called father wanted nothing more than to use his life in exchange for Gu Mingzhu's. Why? Was it because his birth mother was of lowly birth? Was it because he was the product of Gu Wenhui's drunken stupor? Gu Mingfeng wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and slowly stood up. His gentle face was expressionless, but his entire body was frighteningly cold. When Gu Wenhui saw him like this, he was even angrier. "Get lost. You're not part of the Gu family anymore." Gu Mingfeng looked up. "Since you're chasing me out, I'll naturally listen to you. From now on, I won't step into the Gu family anymore, so that I won't be an eyesore to you." Then he directly turned around and left. Gu Wenhui slapped the table into pieces. When Chu Ning received the news, he happened to be discussing important matters with Emperor Jiawen in the palace. This matter had too many implications, so Tianlu Academy had sent someone to report it early in the morning. After Chu Ning heard it, it was as if he was struck by lightning. He couldn't recover his senses for a long time. When Emperor Jiawen saw him like this, he could only sigh deeply, and then let him go back to rest for a few days. Chu Ning didn't know how he walked out of the palace, nor did he know where he had walked to. Everything around him seemed to have faded away, and he was the only one left in the world. He had never felt that his footsteps were so heavy. Every step he took was extremely tiring, and he even felt heart-wrenching pain. However, he didn't dare to stop. He was afraid that once he stopped, the despair and pain would completely drown him. "Hey, how can you walk like this?" On the streets, he walked in a daze. Someone hurriedly walked past him and bumped into him. That person said in disgust. But when he saw Chu Ning's clothes, he immediately realized that he had offended an important person. Thus, he hurriedly shut his mouth and left. When he left, he was still talking to the person beside him. Yeah, who would have thought that Tianlu Academy would have so many casualties this time? I heard that more than 10 people died. What a pity. They were all rare geniuses. Hey, they said that Chu Luiyue, who just got in a while ago, seemed to have died as well. He's a genius among geniuses. So what? If he dies, he won't have a chance to come back to life. Chu Ning forced himself to stand up, lowered his head and walked forward. Someone stood in front of him. He looked up slowly, and took a while to recognize the person in front of him. Chu Yan. His face was filled with curiosity and pity, as he enunciated each word clearly. Big brother, I heard that Chu Luiyue died? Oh, you will be alone in the future. What are you going to do? Love Network has a better reading experience. Chapter 153. When Chu Yan heard the news, he immediately rushed over to look for Chu Ning. As expected, he saw him in a daze. He finally let out the breath that he had been holding in all this time. Although you're no longer part of the Chu family, you're still my big brother. Something happened to Chu Luiyue. And as your younger brother, I'm really worried about you. Big brother, the dead can't come back to life. You have to restrain your grief. Chu Yan put on a sorrowful expression, but the pride and arrogance in his eyes were almost overflowing. Every word was like a knife that ruthlessly stabbed into Chu Ning's heart. It was as if his heart was going to be minced into pieces. Chu Ning used all the strength in her body to stand firm. She glared at him. Are you done? The suppression of a stage 5 warrior was not to be underestimated. Chu Yan subconsciously trembled when he glanced at him, and a sense of fear arose in his heart. However, he was in a good mood now, so he simply ignored it. Hey big brother, why are you angry? You can't blame me for this. I'm just worried that you'll be too sad, so I'm here to console you. Think about how Chu Luiyue entered Tianlu Academy by passing all 3 assessments. He even booked the entire Phoenix restaurant to celebrate. How lively was that? At that time, who would have thought that things would turn out this way? Don't you think so? As Chu Yan spoke, he deliberately sighed. Originally, I thought that our Minmin wasn't outstanding enough, and was much worse than Chu Luiyue. However, I didn't expect that this time. It was because she had just recovered that she was extra careful and avoided so many dangers. Big brother, you see, fortune and misfortune come hand in hand. It's really hard to say. Sometimes some people are unparalleled, but who knows when they'll have to get lost. Chu Ning roared and kicked Chu Yan hard at the same time. Chu Yan was caught off guard and was kicked directly. In addition, his strength couldn't be compared to the current Chu Ning, so Chu Ning's angry kick directly broke his bones. Chu Yan fell to the ground, and his face was pale from the pain. Chu Ning's face was terrifyingly gloomy as he quickly walked forward. Chu Yan was struggling to stand up, but before he could, Chu Ning's foot had already mercilessly stepped on his wrist. Crack! The sound of bones breaking was especially crisp. Ah! Chu Yan cried out in pain, and almost fainted. Chu Ning, on the other hand, grabbed him by the collar and punched him in the face. This person. He didn't want to endure it for even a moment. The people at the side had already recognized the identity of these 2 people. At first, they didn't dare to stop the fight, but in the end, when they saw Chu Ning's eyes were scarlet red, and he grabbed the unconscious Chu Yan and wildly beat him up, as if he was determined to beat him to death, some people carefully tried to stop the fight. Lord Chu Ning, please stop hitting him. If you continue hitting him, he will die. However, Chu Ning did not seem to care at all. Instead, he slammed Chu Yan's head onto the ground. It was good that he was dead. If he died, the Chu clan would come and collect his corpse. Thinking of this, Chu Ning's movements paused as he suddenly thought of something. Eunuch Min came to report that Wanling Mountain's peak had collapsed, and Yuer's corpse was nowhere to be found. However, if he was alive, he wanted to see him. If he was dead, he wanted to see his corpse. Even if he had to dig 3 feet into the ground of Wanling Mountain, he would still search for it. Chu Ning threw Chu Yen to the ground, turned around and left quickly. When he heard that Chu Ning was here, elder son personally went out to welcome him. When he saw Chu Ning covered in blood, he was shocked. Lord Chu Ning, what happened to you? Chu Ning stared at him. Elder son, I have a favor to ask. I want to go to Wanling Mountain to look for you. I heard that you were the last person to see her, so I would like to ask you to tell me the specific location, so that I can start searching from there. How could elder son not know what he was thinking? However, Lord Chu Ning, we are all very sad that something happened to Lu Yu. It is normal for you to want to look for her. However, at that time, she was swallowed by the black whirlpool created by the black flying python. Chu Ning's face became paler. His body swayed, and he almost fell down. He knew about the black heaven-swallowing python. Once one was sucked into it, it would be difficult to find his corpse. Elder son hurriedly supported him and closed his eyes. So, even if you go, I am afraid it will be in vain. Our academy has an unshirkable responsibility for this matter. Please tell me the location. I will look for her. Chu Ning slowly pushed his hand away and said firmly, Chu. Elder son wanted to persuade him again, but when he saw Chu Ning's expression, he couldn't bear it. He took a deep breath and said, Lord Chu Ning, to tell you the truth, I felt uneasy on the way back with the academy's students, so I went back to Wanling Mountain once. Chu Ning was stunned. Elder son paused and recalled the scene that time. He was still shocked. The entire Wanling Mountain was washed with blood. All the magical beasts had been killed. The river that spread out from the forest was completely dyed red with blood. Countless fiends' corpses floated on the river. That scene was really purgatory on earth. Wanling Mountain, which was originally bustling with life, became silent. Only the bloody smell that filled the sky made one's heart tremble. This was most likely caused by the high-level fiend that appeared that day. However, elder son looked around and couldn't find any trace of it. Under such circumstances, it would be difficult to find any traces of them when they were alive, let alone find Chu Luyue. Chu Ning looked defeated and was silent for a long time. But in the end he still stubbornly said, This time, I must go. No matter whether he could find her or not, he must go. My Yuer is most afraid of being alone. I will bring her. He turned around stiffly. After taking a step, he suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground unconscious. Let's go home. For mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 154. Elder son got someone to send Chu Ning home, and hired someone to take care of him in case anything happened to him. He could understand Chu Ning's feelings, but he did not know what would happen if he went out alone in his current state. How could he not be sad? Back then, he thought highly of Chu Luyue, and even wanted to take him in as his disciple. If Uncle Master did not beat him to it, he might really be his master now. Elder son felt bitter seeing such an outstanding genius fall with his own eyes, but he could not do anything about it. After sending Chu Ning away, elder son locked himself in the house and did not come out for a long time. The dying Chu Yen was sent back to the Chu family, but it did not cause much of a stir. Instead, many people laughed at him. Ever since Chu Luyue came to make a scene and took away a large portion of the Chu family's assets, everyone in the Chu family hated Chu Yen and Lu Yao to the core. Of these two people, one used his identity as the third young master to abuse his power, while the other took advantage of the fact that he was in charge of the Chu family's finances and pocketed almost all of the Chu family's assets. If it were not for the fact that the Chu family did not want the two of them to fill this hole, the Chu family would not have tolerated them. Besides, Chu Xianmin was just a concubine in Crown Prince Mansion. She could not do anything, so they were even more unscrupulous. Who would still put them in their eyes? The servant reported the news to First Elder, but he only sneered in return. He dug his own grave by provoking Chu Ning. Who can he blame? With Chu Luyue dead, the Chu family could finally vent their anger. Who would not be secretly happy? However, out of so many people, only the brainless Chu Yen went straight to Chu Ning. No matter what, Chu Ning was already a stage 5 warrior, and was not to be trifled with. Only a stupid person would go against Chu Ning directly. First Elder, as the Imperial Guard's commander-in-chief, Chu Ning beat Third Master half to death. This is not appropriate. Should we report this to His Majesty? First Elder's mouth twitched. He's stupid, but all of you are stupid as well. Chu Luo just died, and Chu Ning is devastated. Why would His Majesty pursue this matter at this time? Besides, it was Chu Ning who provoked him first. So many people were present at that time, and they clearly heard his **T. Even if we report this to His Majesty, we will not be in the right. Rather than this, we might as well deal with this matter quietly. First Elder is right. If he could ruthlessly trample on him at this time, that would be called venting his anger. There's no need for us to do anything. Chu Ning won't be able to hold on. Chu. Only Chu Ning is left. Can't he slowly deal with him in the future? Pity. Chu Luo died so easily outside. She really got off easy. First Elder muttered in a low voice. Only by personally dealing with Chu Luo can the hatred in his heart be quenched. Has there been any news from the Crown Prince? Why is His Majesty so cold to the Crown Prince these days? First Elder pondered for a moment, and changed the topic. The palace has a tight lockdown on information. We have investigated in private, but we couldn't get any information. However, there is one thing that is a bit strange. The Crown Prince was urgently summoned to the palace on the night of his wedding with the third miss. No one knows what His Majesty said to him, but after he came out, the Crown Prince returned to his residence and never came out. Before that, His Highness Third Prince entered the palace. This matter is related to His Highness Third Prince. Not necessarily, but His Highness Third Prince is currently being held in the capital by His Majesty, and has yet to return to the Northwest Army. First Elder's brows wrinkled. A few days ago, he personally sent a letter but was rejected. It can be seen that the Crown Prince's situation is worse than expected. Vaguely, he felt that the Crown Prince's position is in danger. But they have always been on good terms with the Crown Prince. They are already in the same boat. At this time, it would be wishful thinking to seek refuge with another prince. Therefore, they must find a way to help the Crown Prince out of his current predicament. Mu Hongyu was unconscious for an entire day and night. When she woke up, she sat on the bed in a daze. Her whole body seemed to have been drained of all strength. Her mind seemed to be blank, but everything that happened in Wanling Mountain kept replaying in her mind. All the scenes were clearly replayed over and over again, making her extremely uncomfortable. If they stopped Lu Yu at that time, then everything that happened later wouldn't have happened. They were the ones who thought they were lucky, and they were too relaxed. No matter how strong Lu Yu is, she is just a student like them. She even entered the school half a year later than them. How could they let her face a magical beast of the 7th rank alone? That's a very powerful being. Even the elders in the school might not be its match, let alone Lu Yu. Mu Hongyu thought in a daze as tears fell silently. Then she slapped herself harshly. Slap. The crisp sound of the slap was particularly clear in the quiet room. Her face was burning with pain, but it was nothing compared to the self-blame and guilt in her heart. Woo! The golden mane bear cub felt the heavy sadness from her body and seemed to be infected. It crawled over and hugged her arm as it whimpered softly. Mu Hongyu buried her head in her arms and sobbed silently. At this moment, there was a knock on the door. Mu Hongyu hurriedly looked up, wiped the tears on her face, and dragged her tired and painful body to open the door. Who is it? When she saw the face of the person outside the door, Mu Hongyu's face immediately turned cold. She did not say anything and wanted to close the door. Even if the person was wearing a veil and only revealed a pair of eyes, she could immediately recognize that it was Chu Xianmin. Hey, wait! Chu Xianmin held the door with one hand and stopped Mu Hongyu's actions. I heard that you were injured, so I came to visit you out of goodwill. Why are you in such a hurry to close the door? Chu Xianmin said as her eyes quickly swept across Mu Hongyu's face, and the corners of her eyes twitched. Mu Hongyu was enraged by her gaze, and her voice was cold. I don't welcome you here. Leave quickly. It won't do you any good to provoke me. Mu Hongyu seemed to smile. You're not my match even when you're at your peak, let alone now that you're injured. This kind of threat is meaningless. What do you want? Mu Hongyu had completely lost her patience. Chu Xianmin suddenly took a step closer. A sinister look flashed across her eyes as she smiled slowly. Chu Luiyue is dead. I heard that you were quite close to her, so I came to visit you. Look at you. She must have died very miserably, right? Chapter 155. You. Upon hearing this, the anger in Mu Hongyu's heart was completely ignited. She raised her hand and slapped Chu Xianmin's face. Chu Xianmin did not back down. She clamped down on Chu Xianmin's hand and pushed it hard. Mu Hongyu's body fell to the ground uncontrollably. The wounds on her body split open again, and blood flowed out, leaving bloodstains on her clothes. She was seriously injured and was at her weakest. She was no match for Chu Xianmin. Chu Xianmin stepped through the door and looked down at her with a mocking gaze. Are you angry? What's there to be angry about? Am I not telling the truth? I heard that Chu Luiyue died in the hands of the black flying python. The entire mountain collapsed. I'm sure there's nothing left of her now, right? Mu Hongyu's chest churned as black shadows flashed across her eyes. You. Get lost. Chu Xianmin chuckled. I came to see you out of goodwill. But you're so against it, and even want to chase me away. You really don't know how to appreciate my kindness. However, don't worry. Chu Luiyue harmed me to this extent. I won't let it go so easily. It's a pity that I didn't get to finish her off personally, and didn't even see how she died. Since you're so close to her, I'll put this on your head in the future. I'll slowly repay you in the future. As she spoke, she turned around and was about to leave. The golden mane bear cub suddenly chased after her from behind, and bit Chu Xianmin's calf harshly. Ah! Chu Xianmin cried out in pain, and quickly looked down. When she saw that it was the golden mane bear cub, she was shocked and angry. Get lost! The golden mane bear cub was flung away and fell to the ground. Its body shook, and it spat out a piece of flesh from its mouth that was full of blood. It had actually bitten off a piece of flesh from Chu Xianmin's calf. Chu Xianmin's face was pale from the pain. Her heart trembled as she looked at the bloody wound on her calf. She had finally recovered from her injury, but she was attacked by this little bastard again. Such a deep wound would definitely leave a scar. You're courting death. She suddenly pulled out the sword at her waist and slashed at the golden mane bear cub. The golden mane bear cub looked up at her, and its fur suddenly stood up. His eyes were filled with hostility. When the long sword landed, it actually charged straight at Chu Xianmin. Chu Xianmin's sword barely grazed the little golden mane bear's back. However, the golden mane bear cub was a natural 4th-grade magical beast. Its physical strength was extremely strong, and it dodged quickly. The sword only managed to cut off some of its fur. Not even a single wound was left behind. Bang! The golden mane bear cub slammed its head into Chu Xianmin's stomach, causing her to fall to the ground. The back of Chu Xianmin's head hit the ground hard, and her brain buzzed. She was furious. She kicked the golden mane bear cub away and struggled to get up. She raised her sword and stabbed at the bear cub's exposed abdomen. Song song! Mu Hongyu exclaimed and pounced over. The tip of Chu Xianmin's sword had already reached Mu Hongyu's back. Clang! A rock flew from the side and accurately hit the sword, causing Chu Xianmin's sword to deviate. It narrowly grazed Mu Hongyu's side. Chu Xianmin turned around angrily. Who dares? The moment she spoke, she stopped as if someone was strangling her. The person who came was Mr. Wenyan. He quickly went forward and helped Mu Hongyu up. After making sure that she was fine, he looked at Chu Xianmin again with an ugly expression. Chu Xianmin, what are you doing? He originally wanted to see how Mu Hongyu was recovering, but he did not expect to see Chu Xianmin standing at the door from afar with a sword in her hand. When he got closer, he clearly saw Chu Xianmin attacking Mu Hongyu. This is the academy. Are you crazy? How dare you attack your own classmate? Chu Xianmin knew that something was wrong. The door was not closed, and Mr. Wenyan must have seen it clearly. She hurriedly tried to defend herself. Mr. Wenyan, listen to me. It's not what you think. I just wanted to visit Mu Hongyu. Her fiend attacked me first, and I fought back to protect myself. Wen Yin did not believe a single word of this explanation. Cut the crap. When did your relationship with Mu Hongyu become so good? Chu Xianmin secretly bit her lip. Mr. Wen Yin, I'm telling the truth. Look if you don't believe me. This is the wound it left on me. Chu Xianmin pointed at her calf as she spoke. Wen Yin frowned and looked over. Indeed, a piece of flesh had been forcefully torn off. He turned around and glanced at Mu Hongyu and the golden mane bear cub. The golden mane bear cub was still vigilant as it stared at Chu Xianmin. Wen Yin shook his head and said with disappointment, "Fiends are very sensitive. Magical beasts are the most sensitive, especially young ones. The reason why it's so wary of you is obviously because it has sensed your hostility. Mu Hongyu is its master. Do you want me to continue asking why it's treating you like this?" Chu Xianmin was a little flustered. Mr. Wen Yin. All right. You're also injured now, so we're barely even. I won't pursue this any further. Quickly go back and recuperate. Don't let this happen again in the future. Wen Yin interrupted her and looked a little impatient. Yes. Chu Xianmin knew that there was no point in continuing to argue. She could only clench her teeth and swallow her anger as she turned around and limped away. Wen Yin looked at her back view for a long time and sighed. Chu Xianmin used to be smart and hardworking. How did she become like this? Mu Hongyu hugged the golden mane bear cub and patted it for a while. It finally recovered from its previous state and lay in Mu Hongyu's arms softly. Wen Yin turned around and saw that she was in a daze with red eyes. He did not know how to comfort her. He took out a letter from his sleeve. Hongyu, your father, Prince Pingjiang, wrote a letter. Chu Xianmin returned to her residence and treated her wound. However, the more she thought about it, the angrier she became. When Chu Luiyue was still alive, he caused her to suffer a crushing defeat. Not only did he disfigure her, but he also forced her to marry into the crown prince mansion as a concubine. She could not lift her head up until now. Now that she was dead, he was still haunting her. She could not take this lying down. After thinking for a while, she suddenly stood up and walked toward Peach Garden. In Peach Garden, Ling Zhu was dealing with the compensation for the injured students when he heard the news of Chu Xianmin's arrival. He put down the things in his hands and walked to the courtyard. He immediately saw Chu Xianmin, who was waiting there. Xianmin, why are you here? Ling Zhu used to admire Chu Xianmin a lot. Even though he vaguely felt that she had changed after she returned, he did not pay much attention to it. It was normal for her to change after what happened previously. Chu Xianmin glanced inside without batting an eyelid. Mr. Ling Zhu, is elder son here? There's something I want to report. Ling Zhu shook his head. Elder son is busy right now. I'm afraid he doesn't have time to see you. You can tell me anything. I'll pass it on to elder son later. Chu Xianmin hesitated for a while but still spoke. Mr. Ling Zhu, the Tianling dynasty's envoy seems to be coming soon. Ling Zhu was stunned, and his expression became much more serious. Yes, why are you suddenly asking about this? Chu Xianmin paused and seemed to hesitate. Sister's accident was too sudden. However, since the matter has been decided, it's not appropriate to go back on it at the last minute. I wonder if old son plans to send someone else up? Love Network has a better reading experience than this. Chapter 156. Ling Zhu never expected that Chu Xianmin would come here immediately to talk about this matter, before Chu Luiyue's body had even turned cold. Even if Chu Luiyue had severed ties with the Chu family, they still had the same blood flowing in their veins. How could Chu Xianmin say all this without changing her expression? Wasn't she stepping on Chu Luiyue's dead body? Ling Zhu's expression was a little stiff. Xianmin, did you look for elder son just to talk about this? Chu Xianmin also noticed that his expression was a little off. She lowered her eyes and made a sorrowful expression. Teacher Ling Zhu, I know it's not appropriate to say this now, but the dead can't be brought back to life. As the living, we should do what we should do. The Tianling dynasty is such a powerful existence. If we don't deal with this properly, this is not something you should worry about. You should go back and rest first. Ling Zhu looked at Chu Xianmin's sorrowful expression and felt nauseous. If Chu Xianmin cared about Chu Luyue even a little, she would never do such a thing. Since she could say it, why did she have to be so pretentious? Chu Xianmin did not notice Ling Zhu's gaze and asked hesitantly, "Then this matter? I'll discuss it with elder son when he's free." Ling Zhu averted his gaze. Chu Xianmin was then relieved. "Okay, I'll go back first. Please continue with your work." She then turned around and left. Walking out of Peach Garden, Chu Xianmin's lips curled up under her veil. Chu Luyue was already dead, and the academy would definitely find someone to replace him. Naturally, she was the most suitable person as the second in rank. The Tianling dynasty was a powerful existence that only existed in legends. If she could use this opportunity to build a relationship with them, she would not have to worry about not being able to achieve great things in the future. Now, everyone said that she was down and out and no longer had her former glory. Even the servants in Crown Prince Mansion dared to treat her badly. When she made a comeback, she would see how those people would continue to mock her. Ling Zhu watched Chu Xianmin leave. When her figure completely disappeared, he finally let out a long sigh and rubbed between his brows. Other than anger, there was also confusion in his heart. When did Chu Xianmin become like this? Or had he misjudged her from the very beginning? After settling this matter, Chu Xianmin wanted to go back and have a good rest. However, before she could reach her residence, the Chu family sent someone to inform her that Chu Yan had been beaten half to death by Chu Ning. Lu Yao wanted her to go back quickly. Chu Xianmin was shocked, but she did not care about her injury. She applied for leave from the teacher and returned to the Chu family. Chu Xianmin had mixed feelings when she walked to the Chu family's door again. She did not want to go in for a moment. Ever since she married into the Crown Prince's residence, she had not returned to the Chu family. At that time, she had been coldly married off. It could be said that she had lost all the face she had accumulated over the past 10 years. Originally, she had wanted to wait until her days in the Crown Prince's residence were better before returning. However, the Crown Prince had shut himself in his study these days. It was difficult to even see him once, let alone talk about other things. While she was hesitating, the servant in front of the gate had already seen her and said in a strange tone, "Oh, I was wondering who it was. So it's third miss. You don't look well. Could it be that you're having a hard time in the Crown Prince's mansion?" Chu Xianmin felt even more humiliated. However, if she did not go in, it would seem that she was afraid. She took a deep breath and didn't say a word as she walked in without looking sideways. After she left, the servants at the gate looked at each other and laughed in unison. Chu Xianmin dug her nails deep into her palms to suppress the anger in her heart. Along the way, the servants who passed by all mocked and ridiculed her when they saw her. They did not take her seriously at all. When Chu Xianmin finally reached Chu Yan and Lu Yao's residence, her palms were already bleeding from the clenched fists. Lu Yao was standing outside the door. When she saw her, she hurriedly walked over. "Minmin, you have to save your father." Chu Xianmin took a deep breath and walked into the house. "How is father now?" Lu Yao wiped the corners of her eyes and said resentfully, "It's all because of that Chu Ning. He actually beat your father up like that on the streets. If he hadn't been treated in time, I'm afraid." Chu Xianmin walked into the house and saw that Chu Yan was still unconscious. His face was bruised and swollen, and there was almost no part of his body that was unharmed. One could imagine how ruthless Chu Ning was. How did father get hurt like this? Didn't the residents invite anyone to come and take a look? Lu Yao sighed helplessly. "Ever since Chu Luyue came and caused a ruckus, your father's and my status in the residence plummeted, and we became a thorn in everyone's side. They couldn't be happier that your father was beaten up. Why would they help get someone to come and take a look? Most of the money under your father's, and my name has been taken away by them. What's left is not enough to invite those famous doctors. We can only drag it on like this. Minmin, I asked you to come back this time to ask if you have any way to help." At the mention of this, Chu Xianmin was also very frustrated. Wasn't this part of the reason why the Chu family treated her like this? "What can I do? I'm already in a difficult enough situation myself. How can I help you? Besides, the Crown Prince has been staying in the study. I can't even see him, let alone ask the Crown Prince for help." Lu Yao was also anxious. Then what should we do? Are we just going to watch your father suffer like this? Chu Xianmin was silent for a while before she finally said, "Forget it. Don't be anxious now. I'll think of a way to raise some money for you to hire a better doctor for my father first. I'll think of a way to deal with the crown prince. After this period of time, the Tianling dynasty's people will come, and it will be our day to shine." Lu Yao was confused. What? Where did this come from? Chu Xianmin touched the veil on her face. Chu Luiyue is dead. I'll take her place and meet the Tianling dynasty's envoy. As long as I meet him, I'll have a chance to make a comeback. Lu Yao's eyes lit up. Why didn't she think of that? When Chu Xianmin returned to Crown Prince Mansion, it was already night time. She went straight to the study and wanted to see the Crown Prince. As expected, she was rejected again. However, she did not go back directly this time. Instead, she was very persistent. "Your Highness, I know that you've been troubled recently, so I'm here to help you. Please meet me. If you don't think it's possible, I won't disturb you again in the future." After saying that, she waited quietly. After some time, Rong Jin's voice was finally heard. "Let her in. Let her in." A better reading experience comes from the Love Network. Chapter 157. Chu Residence. Chu Ning was unconscious for a day. He only woke up the next morning. He opened his eyes and took a while to recognize that he was in his own house. No, wasn't he at Tianlu Academy, discussing with Elder Sun about going to Wanling Mountain to find you? Why was he back home in the blink of an eye? He struggled to get up, but knocked over the teacup beside the bed. Hearing the commotion, the person waiting outside hurriedly came in. "Lord Chu Ning, you're awake?" Chu Ning looked blankly at the man who came in. "You are?" "I'm a teacher at Tianlu Academy, Ensure. Elder Sun asked me to send you back. Now that you're awake, I can go back without worry." After guarding outside for a night, Ensure looked a little haggard, but his eyes were full of sincerity. "You were too anxious, so you suddenly fainted yesterday. It's not a big deal. You just need to rest for 2 days, and you'll recover." Chu Ning finally reacted. "Thank you." Ensure hurriedly shook his head. "You're welcome. We're all worried about your health. Please take care. Since you're fine now, I'll take my leave first." Chu Ning nodded. Ensure saw that he seemed to have calmed down, and he felt relieved. He reminded him a few more times before turning to leave. Chu Ning, who was sitting in the room, heard the sound of the door opening and closing clearly. His eyes were empty like a bottomless abyss. After a while, he finally got up and walked out with stiff and heavy steps. Not long after Ensure walked out, he heard footsteps behind him. He turned around and saw Chu Ning walking out as well. He was expressionless, and his whole body emitted a cold aura. Ensure walked back quickly. "Lord Chu Ning, why are you out so soon? You need to have a good rest." Chu Ning pushed away his hand that was about to support him, and said word by word, "I'm going to find you, I've already been delayed for an entire night yesterday. I can't be late again today. I have to go quickly." Ensure was helpless. Given Chu Ning's current state, people might even believe that he had gone mad. How could he let him go to Wanling Mountain alone? He tried to pull him back but failed. He could only run in front of Chu Ning and block his way. "Please listen to my advice. Lord Chu Ning, no matter what you want to do, you should first take care of your body, right? Now that you're like this, what if something happens?" Chu Ning walked around him and stubbornly walked forward. I must go. At this moment, a young girl's clear voice suddenly came from behind. "Father, where are you going?" Chu Ning's body trembled. He couldn't be more familiar with this voice. But could it be that he missed you too much that he was hearing things? "Father." The voice was right behind him. Chu Ning wanted to turn around immediately, but his body was extremely stiff, and he couldn't move at all. Ensure raised his head and saw a young girl coming from the corner of the Bluestone Road. She was slender and graceful, and her appearance was clear and beautiful. The corners of her mouth held a smile, and her pair of limpid autumn water eyes shimmered with light, and it actually caused everything in the surroundings to lose color in an instant. Who else could it be but the dead Chu Luiyue? Xianshi's heart trembled. He opened his mouth and couldn't help but point a finger at her. You're Chu Luiyue? Chu Luiyue looked at him in confusion. Teacher Xianshi, don't you recognize me? Although she didn't have much contact with this teacher, it seemed that she should recognize him. Xianshi fiercely pinched himself. It was excruciatingly painful, but he immediately rejoiced in his heart. It's really you. It's really you. He excitedly patted Chu Ning's arm. Lord Chu Ning, quickly look. Lu Yu is really back. Quickly look. Chu Ning's ears were buzzing. Chu Luiyue finally sensed that something was wrong. She quickly walked forward. Father, what's wrong? Xianshi hurriedly explained. You don't know. Everyone thought that you had. Lord Chu Ning said that he wanted to go to Wanling Mountain to find you. I didn't expect that you would come back like this. That's great. Chu Luiyue suddenly understood. That's right. In that situation, no one would think that she could come back alive. It turned out that the place that father insisted on going to was Wanling Mountain. When everyone thought that she was dead, her father still wanted to look for her. Chu Luiyue's nose twitched. Her heart was filled with guilt. She reached out and hugged Chu Ning's arm. Father, you are back. His arm, which was touched by her, instantly melted like the spring water. The stiff and cold feeling instantly dissipated. It became warm and soft, and then quickly spread. Chu Ning's body could finally move. He slowly turned his head, and finally saw the face that he thought he would never see again. Chu Luiyue was shocked when she saw his appearance. In just a few days, the originally clean and handsome Chu Ning seemed to have changed into another person. His face was unshaven, his eyes were dark green, and his eyes were bloodshot. Especially between his brows, there was a trace of gray and dispirited aura that was faintly discernible. His entire person was like a walking corpse that had lost its soul. Her eyes instantly turned red. Father, I'm sorry. You came back late. Chu Ning looked at her without blinking. He held her hand tightly, as if he was afraid that she would disappear again. You are. His voice almost broke Chu Luiyue's heart. She held back her tears. Father, let's go home first. Yes. Let's go home. Chu Ning finally came back to life. Let's go home. Xianshi was also very happy at the side. Lord Chu Ning, Lu Yu, you two go home first. I'll go back to the academy and tell elder son and the rest that you're back. They've been worried sick these few days. After that, he turned around and left quickly. Xianshi actually admired Chu Luiyue very much. Now that he saw that she had returned safely, he was also very happy. He couldn't hide the smile on his face. When they reached the academy, many people were curious when they saw his energetic and smiling face. Not long after, they bumped into Bai Chun. Bai Chun asked curiously, Xianshi, didn't elder son send you to take care of Lord Chu Ning? Now that you're back, is Lord Chu Ning better? Xianshi chuckled. Of course. Not only is he better, but he's completely recovered. Where's elder son? I have something important to tell him immediately. Bai Chun looked at him and found it very strange. Are you serious? Lord Chu Ning was heartbroken yesterday. Why is he completely recovered now? Elder son is still busy. What's so important that you have to tell him so urgently? Xianshi patted his chest. Haha, I won't hide it from you. Anyway, the whole imperial city will know about this very soon. Chu Luiyue, she's back alive. Chu Xianmin, who had just walked in, suddenly stopped in her tracks as if she was struck by lightning. She looked up in disbelief. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 158. Bai Chun was shocked. What did you say? I said Chu Luiyue isn't dead. She's still alive. She even came back to the imperial city this morning. She's accompanying Lord Chu Ning at home. Xianshi repeated his words with confidence. Elder son has been blaming himself for this for the past 2 days. I'll go tell him the good news now. Then he laughed and was about to leave. Bai Chun hurriedly pulled him back and asked in disbelief. Is what you said true? Elder son clearly said that little Lu Yu was swallowed by the black flying python's black whirlpool. Logically speaking, she should have died. How could she still be alive? Sigh, actually I find this strange too. However, she was standing in front of me just now. I have no choice but to believe it. Bai Chun, if you still don't believe me, why don't you go and see for yourself? However, the father and daughter are finally reunited. I think it's not too late to wait until she takes care of Lord Chu Ning and returns to the academy. Okay, I won't talk to you anymore. I'll go and find elder son. Xian Sure walked away quickly after he finished speaking. Bai Chun hesitated for a moment, but did not want to disturb them at this time. He had seen Chu Ning's state the day before. The father and daughter probably had a lot to talk about. He should wait here patiently. Hey, Xian Sure, wait for me. I'll go too. Bai Chun shouted and quickly caught up with Xian Sure's footsteps. He wanted to listen carefully and find out what was going on. The two of them left for a while, but Chu Xianmin, who was standing at the door, still could not react. Chu Luiyue is still alive. How is this possible? Elder Sun had clearly said that she had already died in the hands of the black-winged heaven-devouring python. Why had she returned now? This is ridiculous. This sounded like a fantasy story, but Teacher Xian Sure had no reason to lie. Judging from his expression, it was obvious that he had confirmed it. However, if Chu Luiyue really came back alive, then what should I do? Chu Xianmin's face turned pale at this thought. Last night, she finally got the chance to meet the Crown Prince. She told the Crown Prince that she could replace Chu Luiyue as the #1 warrior and meet with the envoy of the Tianling dynasty. As long as he grasped this opportunity, there was still hope. He might even be able to improve the Crown Prince's situation. Although she did not know what had happened, she vaguely guessed that the Crown Prince had been punished by His Majesty. If he wanted to help the Crown Prince, he needed someone important to speak up for him. The Crown Prince had clearly thought of this and treated her much better. Not only did he allow her to move to Wudong Garden, which was closer and better to his residence, he also gave orders to reward her with many things. The servants of the Crown Prince's residence were the best at adapting to the situation. When she left the residence in the morning, they changed their previous disrespect and became much more attentive. She had just asked someone to invite a doctor to treat her father, thinking that all the problems would be solved. But now, she forced herself to walk forward, but as soon as she took a step, she realized that her legs were weak and she fell to the ground. The news of Chu Luiyue coming back alive from Wanling Mountain spread quickly in the college, and then to the entire capital city. A stone stirred up 1,000 ripples. Some were shocked, some were happy, and some were angry. For a moment, some were happy, and some were sad. Many people wanted to find out what had happened, but Chu Luiyue stayed at home to take care of Chu Ning. He did not even leave the house for the whole day. Her heart ached for Chu Ning to be so haggard because of her. She threw everything else to the back of her mind and took good care of him. She also took the time to rest. Chu Luiyue's return put Chu Ning and the rest at ease, but some others were stunned. The Chu family. After the doctor Chu Xianmin sent for left, Chu Yan woke up and saw Lu Yao beside him with a gloomy face. He was about to get up, but he realized that he could not move at all. He then remembered that he had been beaten up by Chu Ning the day before. His mood immediately became irritable and gloomy. "You, who are you showing your gloomy face to?" The couple had not had a good time in the Chu family recently. Chu Luiyue's incident had directly exposed the two of them, especially Lu Yao. She had been embezzling for so many years. Now that she had been found out, the rest of the Chu family would not let her off easily when they realized that their interests had been harmed. In addition, they did not have the Crown Prince's support now, so they were naturally even more unscrupulous. Lu Yao's right to manage the company was taken away. Even the shops under Chu Yan's name were all taken back. On the surface, he was still the Chu family's third young master, but he no longer had the right to speak. Those people who used to curry favor with him had now changed their attitude and were hitting him when he was down. Even now, no one came to take a look at him when he was beaten up like this. Lu Yao glanced at him and frowned. "Do you know that Chu Luiyue is still alive?" Chu Yan was stunned. "What nonsense are you talking about? She came back this morning. The whole imperial city knows about it now. She didn't die in Wanling Mountain." Lu Yao knew better than Chu Yan how serious this matter was. Min Min's plan was completely ruined. No, we can't just sit here and wait for death. Lu Yao got up and paced back and forth in the room. Suddenly, a light flashed across her heart. Wait, Chu Liyue came back alive. Then, what about Gu Mingzhu? She quickly walked to the side and started writing a letter. Chu Yan was even more confused. What are you doing? Lu Yao did not even look up. Writing a letter to Madame Gu. What time is it now? You still have the mood to do this kind of thing. Chu Yan was fuming with anger. However, Lu Yao smiled. It's better to do this now. Rumor has it that Chu Liyue and Gu Mingzhu died together. But now that Chu Liyue is back, there is no news of Gu Mingzhu. Obviously she is really dead. Is there nothing wrong with this? Chu Yan was stunned for a moment before he quickly understood. You mean? Lu Yao's lips curled into a sinister smile. So what if she came back alive? There are many people in the imperial city who want her life. That night, the letter was sent to the Gu family. The next day, Chu Liyue saw that Chu Ning had recovered a lot. She was relieved and went to the academy. But just as she reached the entrance of the academy, she was stopped. Chu Liyue, stop right there. She looked back and saw a woman in her 30s walking over quickly with a group of people. She was dressed in white, and her eyes were red. She looked sad and angry. Seeing Chu Liyue's face, she immediately became agitated and wailed. Give me back my daughter's life. Digression, I couldn't sleep yesterday. Sob, 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 sob. A better reading experience comes from love. Chapter 159. Her voice was sharp and piercing, causing Chu Liyue to frown. Who are you? When the woman heard this, she seemed to be even more agitated. She immediately rushed forward and slapped Chu Liyue. You still have the cheek to ask who I am? I'll kill you. Chu Liyue sidestepped and dodged her attack. The woman lost her balance and almost fell to the ground. Fortunately, the people behind her quickly caught her. Madam, you have to be careful. The woman was even angrier. She pointed at Chu Liyue and said sternly, Go, capture her. Yes. When the people heard this order, they immediately went forward and surrounded Chu Liyue, intending to take action. Chu Liyue's expression did not change, but his voice was much colder. He sounded imposing without being angry. This is Tianlu Academy. Let's see who has the guts to cause trouble here. This sentence successfully made the people stop in their tracks and feel uneasy. That's right. No matter what, this was Tianlu Academy's entrance. If they really did something overboard here, Tianlu Academy would not let them off. However, the woman did not seem to hear Chu Liyue's words at all. Her voice rose an octave. Why are you still standing there? Take her down right now. If the Gu family wants to capture someone, who dares to stop us? The Gu family? Chu Liyue's mind raced. He finally remembered this woman's identity. She was the wife of the head of the Gu family, Gu Yunfei. She was the mistress of the Gu family, Yu Jinling. The original owner of the body had only seen this woman once, and it had been a few years ago. When Chu Liyue saw her, he only felt that she looked familiar. However, he did not remember anything. However, since she was so arrogant and kept saying my Gu family, it was not difficult for people to guess who she was. Chu Liyue finally understood what she meant when she said those words at the beginning. This was because Yu Jinling was Gu Mingzhu's biological mother. Oh, it's Madame Gu. I don't seem to have any dealings with your Gu family, and I haven't done anything wrong to you, have I? I wonder why you've mustered such a large force to capture me. Yu Jinling was so angry that she laughed. She looked at Chu Liyue with resentment in her eyes. You still have the nerve to say that. You know best what you've done. Chu Liyue's expression did not change. I really don't know. Why don't you explain it to me first? Yu Jinling was so angry that her whole body trembled. What's going on? Why are you making so much noise so early in the morning? Just as the two sides were in a deadlock, someone walked out from the academy's gate. Chu Liyue turned around to take a look. Teacher Bai Chun. When Bai Chun saw Chu Liyue, her heart skipped a beat. Even though he had already heard the news yesterday, seeing it with his own eyes still made him excited. Little Luyu, it's really you. He quickly walked up to Chu Liyue and looked at her carefully. You're really fine? Chu Luyue's lips curled up slightly. Yes, I'm fine. Don't worry. Good. It's good that you're back. It's good that you're back. Bai Chen's emotions were in turmoil. He had a lot to say, but only this sentence was left. He kept repeating it over and over again. He heard that there was a commotion outside the academy, so he wanted to come and take a look. He did not expect it to be Chu Luyue. His heart, which had been restless all night, could finally be at ease. When his emotions had calmed down a little, he looked around, and his expression suddenly became a little bad. These people seemed to want to make a move on Luyu. His gaze finally fell on Yu Jinling. Mrs. Gu, why are you here? Yu Jinling took a deep breath and suppressed the anger in her heart. She said coldly, Teacher Bai Chen, this is between the Gu family and Chu Luyue. You'd better stay out of it. Bai Chen was amused. Mrs. Gu, what are you saying? Luyu is a student of Tianlu Academy. If you want to take her away now, don't we even have the right to ask? Yu Jinling was not a fool. She could immediately tell that Bai Chen was on Chu Luyue's side. The Gu family was respected, but Tianlu Academy was not to be trifled with. If Bai Chen was determined to protect Chu Luyue, then she really could not take Chu Luyue away by force. Why don't you ask Chu Luyue this question instead of me? Bai Chen looked at Chu Luyue questioningly. Chu Luyue shrugged. I don't know what happened either. When I walked to the academy's entrance, Mrs. Gu rushed over with her people and wanted to take me away without saying anything. She even said that she wanted me to pay for her daughter's life. When Bai Chen heard this, he suddenly understood something and looked at Yu Jinling suspiciously. Mrs. Gu, are you saying that Luyu killed your daughter Gu Mingzhu? That's right. When she heard her daughter's name, Yu Jinling's emotions, which had just calmed down, became agitated again. Tears gushed out crazily. It's her. She killed my only daughter. Bai Chen's expression became a little strange. Mrs. Gu, this involves a life. You can't speak carelessly. I understand your grief over losing your daughter, but the situation at Wanling Mountain was chaotic. Even we didn't know what happened. How can you be so sure that it was Luyu who killed your daughter? Of course I'm sure. I've already asked around. Back then, Mingzhu and Chu Luyue were trapped on a mountain together. They were besieged by the black flying python and countless fiends. Under such circumstances, why did Mingzhu die, and only Chu Luyue come back safely? She must have done something. Yu Jinling shouted confidently and angrily, as if she had seen it with her own eyes. Bai Chen didn't think much of it. He even found it a little ridiculous. So, just because Luyu came back alive alone, you're certain that she killed Gu Mingzhu and wanted her dead? Yu Jinling rebuked coldly. Isn't that enough? Otherwise, why don't you ask her to personally explain how she managed to escape alone under that kind of situation? If Chu Luyue was also dead, she would have nothing to say. She could only admit that she was unlucky. But now, Chu Luyue was standing here safe and sound, while her daughter's corpse was nowhere to be found. How could she not hate her? Bai Chen was speechless. Do you have any evidence for what you said? If you don't have evidence, it's slander. Yu Jinling was stunned. For a moment, she didn't know how to respond, and seemed a little guilty. Chu Luyue gently rubbed between her eyebrows and said calmly, There's no evidence or evidence. Just based on your own imagination, you're sure that I'm guilty, and even want to take me away? Madame Gu, aren't you being too unreasonable? Yu Jinling was rendered speechless by the two of them. Her face, which was originally red from crying, quickly turned pale. But she had seen much of the world, and the Jiao quickly defended herself. She quickly said, Then explain yourself clearly. What exactly happened at that time? Why are you the only one who came back safely? If you already had the means to escape, why didn't you help Mingzhu? Chapter 160. Why didn't she help? Chu Luyue sneered in her heart. Instead, she wanted to ask herself why she should help. She and Gu Mingzhu were not related at all. Moreover, Gu Mingzhu had betrayed her to the black flying python in order to save her own life. She had yet to settle this score. How could the Gu family have the nerve to ask her to pay for Gu Mingzhu's life? Chu Luyue said indifferently. The situation was critical at that time. It was already extremely difficult for me to survive. How could I care about other things? Madam Gu, don't forget that it was a black flying python. Do you think I'm its match? Yu Jinling was speechless. Then how did you escape? Who knows if you used my daughter's life in exchange for a way out? Yes, that must be it. Yu Jinling suddenly raised her voice, as if she was certain that Chu Luiyue must have used despicable means to survive. Chu Luiyue was so angry that she laughed. As the saying went, like father like son. Yu Jinling and Gu Mingzhu, this pair of mother and daughter, indeed had the same brain circuit. If the person present at that time was Yu Jinling, she would probably make the same choice as Gu Mingzhu, and use someone else's life in exchange for her own. Madam Gu, I've already said it very clearly. I was lucky to be able to come back alive. But if you don't want to believe me, then what else can I say? You only believe in your own imagination. Since that's the case, you can think whatever you want. But today, if you can't produce evidence, I won't go with you. I still have something to do, so I'll leave first. With that, Chu Luiyue turned to leave. You can't leave. Yu Jinling took a few steps forward, and was about to grab Chu Luiyue's sleeve, but she gently swayed and dodged. Chu Luiyue's patience was completely exhausted. Madam Gu, I don't have that much patience. Her tone was very calm, but a cold light seemed to flash in her obsidian-like eyes. For some reason, Madam Gu suddenly felt a little timid, and did not dare to reach out to grab Chu Luiyue. Chu Luiyue turned around, and walked towards the academy. Bai Chen walked in front of Yu Jinling inside, persuading her. Madam Gu, I know that Mingzhu's incident is a huge blow to you. As teachers, we are also very sad. But even so, they couldn't just randomly accuse others, right? Moreover, we all know Lu Yu's character. She would never do something like that. So I think you should go back and have a good rest today. Yu Jinling refused. Teacher Bai Chen, you're determined to protect Chu Luiyue today, aren't you? What kind of soup did she feed you to make you trust her so much? Think about it. In that kind of situation, if she didn't use some kind of method, how could she have escaped? Bai Chen's expression also turned cold. Madam Gu, are you saying that all the teachers and elders of Tianlu Academy are covering for Chu Luiyue? Yu Jinling thought that this might not be impossible, but she didn't dare to say it out loud. She glared viciously at Chu Luiyue. Her eyes were filled with hatred. Lu Yao was right. Chu Luiyue was really a vicious and venomous snake. Ha! I don't know what kind of person Chu Luiyue is. I only know that she could betray the Chu family that gave birth to her. She kicked them away, and even wanted to peel off a layer of their skin after she left. She stirred up chaos in the Chu family, let alone other people. Chu Luiyue, if you don't give me a satisfactory explanation today, I won't leave. After she finished speaking, her legs turned to jelly, and she collapsed on the ground, crying out loud. Mingzhu, my poor daughter. You died so tragically. Someone else caused your death. But I couldn't do anything about it. Mother is useless. Mother is useless. When the few followers beside her saw this, they immediately knelt down and cried in unison. Second Missy, you've been harmed by that evil person. The corners of Chu Luiyue's eyes twitched. Was she planning to cry at Tianlu Academy's entrance? She frowned and looked back. She only felt that it was ridiculous. No matter what, Yu Jinling was the matriarch of the Gu family. She had a noble status. How could she do such a thing? No matter how sorrowful and angry she was, her actions were equivalent to throwing the Gu family's face. Why didn't she consider it at all? When Yu Jinling saw Chu Luiyue's reaction, she thought that she was afraid and cried even harder. Her shrill and mournful voice could be heard from afar. Very quickly, many people gathered outside the entrance to watch the commotion. Some people started pointing at Chu Luiyue, as if they were gossiping. Bai Chen had never seen such a scene before. He was momentarily stunned. After regaining his senses, he was furious. If they cried like this, where would Chu Luiyue and Tianlu Academy be? He frowned and said, Madam Gu, it's not appropriate for you to make such a scene, right? Yu Jinling pretended not to hear anything. She only cared about crying. You. Bai Chen had a bad temper. He immediately panicked. Chu Luiyue hurriedly pulled him back. Teacher Bai Chen, don't do anything. With so many people watching, Whoever made the first move would be in the wrong. Bai Chen was extremely frustrated. Are we just going to let them make a scene here? What about your reputation? The surrounding people had already heard the gist of the situation. They started discussing in low voices. I was wondering why this person's identity was so special. So she's the Gu family's matriarch. No wonder she dared to go against Tianlu Academy. That's not right. Tianlu Academy is not that easy to provoke. You don't know this, right? Gu Mingzhu was her only daughter. She relied on Gu Mingzhu to stabilize her position in the Gu family. Now that Gu Mingzhu is dead, there are many people coveting her position. She's in danger now. How can she not hate her? She can't be blamed for making such a scene without caring about anything else. I see. Based on what she said, it was Chu Luiyue who killed Gu Mingzhu? I find it strange too. Think about it. It was such a dangerous situation. But why did Chu Luiyue survive? Gu Mingzhu was the Gu family's most favored second young mistress. She must have some trump cards. Even she is dead, but Chu Luiyue. Actually, I wanted to say this a long time ago. This Chu Luiyue is really strange. Back then, the Chu family didn't treat her well. After she cut ties with them, the Chu family's days became difficult. I heard that Gu Mingzhu didn't have a good relationship with her. She died after being trapped with her. This is really hard to say. Bai Chen was furious when he heard the discussions around him. However, when he saw Chu Luiyue's expression, not only was he not angry, but he even smiled. Aya, little Luyu, how can you still smile now? If you let these people continue, you will really be the sinner who killed Gu Mingzhu. Do you know that 3 people make a tiger? Chu Luiyue crossed his arms and smiled faintly. Teacher Bai Chen, they specially arranged so many people to put on a show. Wouldn't it be a waste if we don't enjoy it? Bai Chen was stunned. You mean these people? It's hard for Madame Gu to do such a despicable thing with her status. Chu Luiyue said softly and walked in front of Yu Jinling. Madame Gu, tell me, who taught you these things? Yu Jinling's crying stopped abruptly. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from the Love Network. Chapter 161. She guiltily avoided Chu Luiyue's gaze and deliberately raised her voice. What are you talking about? No one taught me anything. I'm the one who wants to seek justice from you. If you don't give me an explanation today, I won't leave. Chu Luiyue softly said. Oh, Madame Gu, it's fine if you don't say anything, but you have to think carefully. Is it worth it to sacrifice your status as the Gu family's matriarch just for a moment of pleasure? Yu Jinling really couldn't cry now. What are you trying to say? What do you mean by it's not worth it? Chu Luiyue sighed. She really didn't know how Yu Jinling had protected her status all these years. She was so extreme and easily instigated by others. She even helped others count the money after being betrayed. It was really useless to persuade her. She calmly said, You insist that I caused Gu Mingzhu's death, but you can't produce any evidence. If this matter spreads, it won't do me any good. It's the same for you, Madame Gu. After all, to be more precise, you're slandering me. Who's slandering you? You've done something wrong, but you don't dare to admit it. Yu Jinling was certain that Chu Luiyue had something to do with Gu Mingzhu's death. She wouldn't listen to anything now. She sneered. Chu Luiyue, do you think you're very proud now? Yes, you got into Tianlu Academy and became a so-called genius. Normal people really don't dare to provoke you. Even the Chu family is being toyed with by you. It's falling apart because of you. However, who knows how you obtained all of this? You were clearly a cripple with a blocked yuan meridian a few years ago. Now, under this so-called genius title, who knows what secrets are hidden? If you're really honest, do you dare to say it clearly in front of so many people? These words came out like a string of cannonballs, which immediately silenced the surrounding people. Countless pairs of eyes looked at Chu Luiyue with curiosity and excitement. Obviously, they also wanted to know the answer. After hearing this, Chu Luiyue relaxed her brows. As expected, it was still related to the Chu family. There were only a few people who hated her to the core. She didn't need to ask to guess. However, in order to deal with her, he had gone through so much trouble, and even encouraged Yu Jinling to bring the Gu family to cause trouble. He was really brainless as usual. She whispered, "Mrs. Gu, you're standing up for someone. Don't be unaware that you're being used in the end." Yu Jinling sneered. "What? Can't say it. Let me tell you, even if this matter is brought up to His Majesty, I will not let you off easily. Only your death can make up for my daughter's life." From the looks of it, he was determined to fight to the death with Chu Luiyue. "Madam Gu, aren't you going overboard by asking for the life of a Tianlu Academy student?" An old and deep voice rang out, immediately suppressing the cries of Yu Jinling and the others. Chu Luiyue looked at the person in surprise. "Elder son, why are you here?" Elder son looked at her and tried his best to maintain a calm expression. However, he couldn't help but look happy. "I heard that you were back, so I wanted to come and take a look. I didn't expect to hear cries from afar. So, someone is making things difficult for you." Chu Luiyue coughed in embarrassment. "Sorry to disturb you. It's not really a disturbance. Even if it is, it's someone else. It's not your fault." As elder son spoke, he looked at Yu Jinling and saw her sitting on the ground without a care for her image. His face darkened. "Madam Gu, what are you doing?" Yu Jinling was shocked. She didn't expect elder son to appear. Although she was furious, she knew that elder son was one of the top people in Tianlu Academy. She didn't dare to be impudent in front of him. Thus, she hurriedly stood up and said, "Elder son, you came at the right time. Mingzhu is also a student of the academy, but she died tragically outside. Even her corpse." As she spoke, tears flowed down her face again. "All of this is Chu Luiyue's fault. She caused Mingzhu's death. Such a vicious person doesn't have the right to stay in Tianlu Academy." Elder son's frown deepened. "Luyu caused Mingzhu's death? Where did you hear this from? Why don't I know about it?" "Elder son, do you know that the two of them were trapped on a mountain? Mingzhu is dead, but Chu Luiyue is still alive. Don't you think it's strange?" "You!" Elder son looked at her with a heavy gaze and interrupted her mercilessly. "Of course, I know about this because I was at the foot of the mountain. I saw it clearly." Yu Jinling was stunned and immediately rejoiced. "That's great. So you saw everything that happened at that time? Chu Luiyue caused Mingzhu's death, right? Chu Luiyue, don't you want evidence? Elder son is here. His words are the evidence." As one of the great elders of Tianlu Academy, Sun Zhongyan's status was extraordinary. Normally, he would not side with anyone. No one would doubt the truth of what he said. Chu Luiyue was also surprised. "Elder son, you were there at the time?" Elder son nodded. "Only the two of you were trapped, so I let the others leave first. I went alone to save the two of you. However, when I reached the foot of the mountain, I realized that it was occupied by countless fiend beasts. There was no way to enter, let alone anything else." Chu Luiyue understood, and her heart warmed. "I see. She did not expect this to happen. Elder son could be considered to have done everything he could for them. You don't have to blame yourself. The situation was critical. If you had barged in, you would have been in trouble." Elder son sighed. "I saw the two of you being swallowed by the black whirlpool with my own eyes. That's why I thought you were. I didn't expect you to return safely." He was actually very curious. He did not know how Chu Luiyue had escaped, but now was not the time to ask. He stepped forward and looked at Yu Jinling. "Madam Gu, you should apologize to Luyu." Yu Jinling was stunned. "What?" Elder son said word by word. "That's because the person who betrayed her fellow disciples in exchange for a chance to live was not Chu Luiyue, but Gu Mingzhu." Digression. The remaining two photos were slightly later, around noon. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience came from Love Network. Chapter 162. Elder son's words were full of energy. It was like a sudden clap of thunder. Not only Yu Jinling, but everyone else was also dumbfounded. This meant, "Elder son? What are you talking about?" Yu Jinling subconsciously retorted. "The one who is alive now is Chu Luiyue. The one who is dead is my Mingzhu. How could it be?" At that time, Chu Luiyue and Gu Mingzhu were trapped on the mountain. The black flying python led many magical beasts and surrounded the mountain. Actually, from the beginning, the black flying python wanted to kill Lu Yu. But at that time, the black flying python was trapped for some reason. Lu Yu wanted to take the opportunity to escape. But just as she was about to escape, Gu Mingzhu stopped her. Not only did she attack Lu Yu, she also hugged her leg and didn't let her leave. Although I was some distance away, I saw that she was holding Lu Yu back while talking to the black flying python. But the black flying python didn't care and directly swallowed her into the black vortex. Lu Yu was dragged down by her and couldn't hold on for long. She was also sucked into the vortex. With every word Elder Sun said, Yu Jinling's face turned paler. In the end, she was as pale as a ghost. Her strength seemed to have been sucked away in an instant. She was on the verge of collapsing. The people beside her quickly went forward to support her. Impossible. This is impossible. Mingzhu isn't that kind of person. She wouldn't do such a thing. She appeared fierce on the outside, but was weak on the inside. Although she appeared to be strong on the surface, she actually felt a little guilty. Gu Mingzhu was her daughter, so she knew her best. When Gu Mingzhu returned home, she had repeatedly expressed her dissatisfaction with Chu Luiyue. Later, she made a bet with Chu Luiyue and lost 2 level 5 Xian formation diagrams. Gu Mingzhu hated her even more. The two of them were trapped. She might really, Elder Sun said coldly. Madam Gu, are you saying that I'm lying? Yu Jinling couldn't speak. Her forehead was already covered in cold sweat. How could she dare to say that Elder Sun was lying? Moreover, even if she didn't believe it, Elder Sun was a person of virtue and prestige. Others would definitely think that what he said was true. Yesterday, when she received Lu Yao's letter, she was blinded by anger. All she wanted was to take Chu Luiyue's life. But now even Elder Sun stood up for Chu Luiyue. The situation had already been decided. Even if she continued to cause trouble, it would be useless. Seeing Yu Jinling like this, everyone came back to their senses. Yu Jinling originally wanted to cause trouble for Chu Luiyue. But now that Elder Sun had spoken, she could no longer pester endlessly. Seeing that the situation was not right, a few people in the crowd quietly turned around and left. Chu Luiyue glanced at him, but did not stop him. In any case, she had already guessed who was behind this, so she didn't need to waste her energy on these small fries. Just as Yu Jinling didn't know what to do, the sound of hurried footsteps came from afar. The crowd quickly opened up a path. A middle-aged man rushed over with his entourage, looking anxious. When he saw Yu Jinling, his expression became even more unsightly. What are you doing here? Hearing this angry shout, Yu Jinling's body trembled and she turned around. Patriarch? The person who came over was burly and had a square face. He looked dignified without being angry. It was the patriarch of the Gu family, Gu Yunfei. He glared fiercely at Yu Jinling. What did I tell you yesterday? Have you forgotten? Yu Jinling shivered and lowered her head, not daring to look at him. I was just thinking about Mingzhu. Gu Yunfei was about to explode in anger. Everything was fine yesterday, but Yu Jinling suddenly ran to him and said that Chu Luiyue must have done something to Mingzhu to be able to come back alive. She said that he must capture Chu Luiyue and interrogate her properly. Gu Yunfei was skeptical. He had always doted on Gu Mingzhu. He felt terrible about her death, but he did not lose his rationality. On one hand, this was only their speculation. They did not have any evidence, so they could not accuse Chu Luiyue. On the other hand, Chu Luiyue's status was different from before. She was highly regarded in Tianlu Academy. How could it be so easy to touch her? He told Yu Jinling not to act rashly and to wait until they had enough evidence. Yu Jinling agreed at that time, but he did not expect her to do it. She even dared to bring people to Tianlu Academy to cause trouble. Looking at Yu Jinling's pathetic state, the Gu family's face and Gu Yunfei's face were all lost. Shut up. Yu Jinling was shocked. She knew that she was in the wrong, so she did not dare to say another word. Gu Yunfei took a deep breath and walked quickly to Old Sun with an apologetic expression. Old Sun, I'm really sorry. I didn't discipline her well, which caused her to cause such a huge commotion. You have always been magnanimous. Please, on account of the fact that we have just lost our daughter, Can you let this matter pass? Old Sun waved his hand. You don't have to say that. You don't have to apologize to me. This matter has damaged Lu Yu's reputation. You should ask her. Gu Yunfei was stunned and a little surprised. Old Sun seemed to take special care of Chu Luyue. At the end of the day, Chu Luyue was just a student of the academy. Tianlu Academy's reputation had been tarnished by the commotion today. However, Elder Sun's first consideration was Chu Luyue. He suppressed the shock in his heart and said to Yu Jinling angrily, "Did you hear what Old Sun said? Why aren't you apologizing to Lu Yu?" Yu Jinling widened her eyes. Family head, you want me to apologize to her? She was the matriarch of the Gu family. Who is Chu Luyue? Gu Yunfei said coldly. Do you want me to apologize on your behalf? Yu Jinling was shocked, and her aura immediately weakened. Without Mingzhu, her position in the Gu family was very dangerous. If she offended the family head now, then she gritted her teeth, and her legs felt like they were filled with lead. She walked step by step to Chu Luyue, and her voice seemed to be squeezed out from her throat with difficulty. I'm sorry. Chu Luyue blinked. Madam Gu, what did you say? I didn't hear you clearly. Yu Jinling was so angry that her whole body trembled. How could she not have heard clearly? She was deliberately making things difficult for her. Gu Yunfei looked at her warningly. Yu Jinling had no choice but to close her eyes in resentment. I'm sorry. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 163. Chu Luyue looked at her sympathetically. I wouldn't dare. Madame Gu is of noble status. I can't accept your apology. However, Madame Gu, you seem to be crying too hard just now. Listen, your voice is hoarse now. Yu Jinling was so angry that she almost couldn't breathe. Wasn't she mocking her on purpose? You. That's enough. Gu Yunfei shouted angrily, and looked at his subordinates behind him. Hurry up and send Madame Gu back. Take care of her. Yes. They hurried forward and half supported and half forced Yu Jinling away. With Gu Yunfei here, Yu Jinling didn't dare to make a fuss no matter how angry she was. She could only leave with them. Gu Yunfei finally heaved a sigh of relief when they were completely out of sight. Elder Son Lu Yu this? Master Gu. Elder Son already said it very clearly. Gu Mingzhu failed to harm me and lost her life in the end. In fact, it wasn't just this time. It was the same before. She wanted to steal the cub of the golden mane bear, but failed, and was hunted down instead. Later, she purposely dragged our team down with her, causing us to be threatened by the golden mane bear. If it weren't for our good luck, even Mu Hongyu and the rest wouldn't have been able to escape death, much less me. Chu Luyue's expression was calm, but what she said shocked everyone once again. I'm of ordinary status. It doesn't matter if I die or get hurt. However, Mu Hongyu is Princess Yongping. If something happens to her because of this, Master Gu, I'm afraid you'll be in trouble. Gu Yunfei's remaining words were stuck in his throat. He didn't know if Chu Luyue was telling the truth, but Elder Sun was on her side. Even if it was fake, it was true. I originally thought that since Gu Mingzhu is no longer here, we don't need to pursue this matter. After all, the dead are more important. However, I didn't expect that after I gave in again and again, all I got in return was groundless accusations and slander. Master Gu, although I'm not a great person, I won't admit to things I haven't done. If others want to slander me, I definitely won't sit back and do nothing. Fortunately, Elder Sun was here today. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to clear my name even if I jumped into the Yellow River. What do you think? Gu Yunfei felt a chill run down his back. Then what do you want? Chu Luyue paused and smiled. Mrs. Gu has already apologized to me in front of everyone. Of course, I won't hold it against her. Let's just forget about this matter. The stone in Gu Yunfei's heart was finally lifted. That's good, that's good. However, Chu Luyue took a step forward, lowered his voice and laughed. Gu family head, Madame Gui has lost her beloved daughter. Now that she's grieving, it's easy for her to be incited by others. Perhaps someone might take advantage of her. You'd better pay more attention. Gu Yunfei's heart thumped. The farce finally came to an end. Chu Luiyue returned to the academy and briefly told elder son and Bai Chun what had happened over the past 2 days. However, she didn't mention how she had escaped from the black vortex. She only said that she had fainted and found herself lying in the forest when she woke up. She didn't know what had happened. Elder son didn't believe it, but seeing that Chu Luiyue didn't seem to want to talk about it, he didn't pursue the matter. He told her to rest well and let her go. Before Chu Luiyue returned to her residence, she bumped into Mu Hongyu and Sin Hu, who were looking for her. When the two saw Chu Luiyue standing in front of them, they were overjoyed. "Luyu, it's really you. It's really you." Mu Hongyu hugged her, crying and laughing at the same time. Sin Hu scratched his head and laughed so hard that the corners of his mouth almost reached the back of his head. "Haha, I told you that Luyu wouldn't go back on her words. We agreed to meet outside the mountains. Isn't it true now?" Chu Luiyue saw that the two of them looked haggard and knew that they had been suffering for the past few days. Her heart ached as she patted Mu Hongyu's shoulder. "I've always been a man of my words. On the other hand, the two of you look so sickly." Mu Hongyu wiped her tears. "Of course not." As she spoke, she couldn't help but burst into laughter. "I heard that the matriarch of the Gu family came to find trouble with you? How could they have the cheek to do that?" Chu Luiyue shook her head. "It's already been resolved. Madame Gu probably won't have an easy time in the future." Sin Hu asked doubtfully, "How do you know? After all, she's the matriarch of the Gu family." Chu Luiyue's lips curved up. "It's precisely because she's the matriarch that this matter is so serious." The Chu residence. After hearing the news from the servants, Lu Yao was in a daze for a long time. She sat in her chair in a daze and muttered in disbelief. How could this be? Could it be that this still couldn't bring her down? Not only did it not bring her down, but it even cleared Chu Luiyue's name. With elder son's words, there would no longer be such a rumor in the entire imperial city. Chu Luiyue had cleared her name without any effort. What exactly did she rely on to avoid danger time and time again? "It's all because of you. Now everyone knows that elder son is also Chu Luiyue's backer." Chu Yin was seriously injured and couldn't get out of bed. Her temper had become even more irritable, and she would scold her frequently. Lu Yao was vexed. "I didn't know that things would turn out this way." "It's all because you're brainless." Just as the two of them were quarreling, hurried footsteps suddenly came from outside. Lu Yao took a look and saw a group of people rushing into the courtyard. They looked unfriendly. "What are you doing? Is this a place where you can come in as you please? All of you get out." The person at the front sneered and said sarcastically, "Third madam, we're here on First Elder's orders to invite you to the main hall." Lu Yao's heart skipped a beat. "Why is First Elder looking for me? Don't you know what you've done? Now, the Gu family is also waiting for you. Please." Lu Yao's heart sank when she heard the words Gu family. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 164. Mu Hongyu was originally worried that Chu Luiyue would be bullied by Madame Gu, but seeing her calm and composed appearance, she was relieved. Thinking about it, Chu Luiyue could escape from the black flying python. What else could she not do? A mere Gu family was nothing to them. Forget it. Let's not talk about that. Now that you're back, we have to properly celebrate. Mu Hongyu's almond-shaped eyes sparkled as she spoke. "Luyu, you said you would take us to Phoenix Restaurant last time. I haven't been there in a long time." Chu Luiyue lightly knocked her head. "When your body recovers, you can go there every day. For now, you'd better stay here obediently." Mu Hongyu's smile immediately disappeared. She raised 2 fingers. "I swear I definitely won't drink. Is that okay? We'll only go eat." Chu Luiyue raised her brows. "Really?" Mu Hongyu hurriedly nodded. Really? Lu, you just promise me. I beg you." Chu Luiyue pretended to hesitate for a while before finally nodding. Okay. They had probably been heartbroken because of her for the past few days. It was time for them to relax. "Then let's go tonight." Sin Hu called Liao Zhongshu and Gu Mingfeng as well. Sin Hu scratched his head, a little troubled. Liao Zhongshu's body hasn't recovered yet. He's been bedridden. I'm afraid he can't go." Chu Luyue was a little surprised. Liao Zhongshu's injuries are that serious? I remember that it was mainly some flesh wounds at that time. After a few days, he should have recovered a little. Why can't he even get out of bed? Speaking of this, Mu Hongyu and Sin Hu's expressions were a little unsightly. That's right. The academy's teachers have already taken a look at him and given him medicine. But for some reason, his injuries keep coming back and haven't improved. Sin Hu continued. There's also Gu Mingfeng. He hasn't returned to the academy these past 2 days. I heard that he was chased out of the Gu family. Chu Luyue was stunned. Why would the Gu family do this all of a sudden? Mu Hongyu pursed her lips. Isn't it because of Gu Mingzhu? Gu Mifeng has always been disliked in the Gu family. Now that Gu Mingzhu is dead, the Gu family is pushing all the blame onto him. Sin Hu clenched his fists. Anyway, he rarely went back. It's no longer considered his home. It's good that he's gone. Chu Luyue shook his head. That's not the case. It was one thing for Gu Mingfeng to not be valued, but it was another thing for him to be kicked out. In the past he was everyone, he was in the Gu family, in the past the families. Chu Luyue thought for a moment and said, that's right. I'm afraid we won't be able to eat today's meal. Sin Hu, go look for Gu Mingfeng. If you have any news, inform us immediately. Hongyu and I will visit Liao Zhongshu first. Upon hearing Chu Luyue's words, the duo agreed. After all, they had gone through life and death together. They couldn't ignore him. Mu Hongyu stopped joking. I know where Liao Zhongshu lives. Come with me. The moment Chu Luyue followed Mu Hongyu to the warrior student's residence, they attracted a lot of attention. The news of Chu Luyue's safe return had already spread throughout the academy the day before. Many people were curious when they heard that she was coming back today. Seeing that Chu Luyue had actually come to the warrior's residence, it naturally caused quite a commotion. Chu Luyue ignored it and followed Mu Hongyu to a small building. Mu Hongyu walked to the door and knocked. Ji Yurong, are you there? The door was quickly opened. It was a tall and thin youth. He recognized Mu Hongyu at a glance and smiled warmly. Mu Hongyu, are you here to take a look at Zhongshu? Mu Hongyu nodded. Yes, Lu Yu and I are here to visit him. The youth was stunned when he heard Chu Luyue's name. Only then did he see that there was another person behind her. A strange expression flashed across his face, but it was fleeting. So you came together. Come in. Zhongshu just woke up. You can go up and visit him. Chu Luyue narrowed her eyes. Mu Hongyu didn't sense anything wrong. She pulled Chu Luyue to the second floor. We'll go up first. Sorry to trouble you these few days. Ji Yurong smiled. We're all classmates. It's my duty. You guys chat. I have something to do, so I'll go out first. After saying that, he simply packed up his things, closed the door and left. Chu Luyue looked back at him. She didn't know if it was an illusion, but she felt that Ji Yurong's footsteps seemed to be fleeing. As she went up the stairs, she asked, that Ji Yurong also lives here? That's right. He's been living here with Zhongshu. This is the martial artist area. Everyone lives together. It's not like you mystics who have good conditions and can each have your own courtyard. Zhongshu often talks about him, but he's a bit introverted and rarely interacts with us. Mu Hongyu said as she walked. However, he's really a good person. He's been taking care of Zhongshu for the past few days. Chu Luyue nodded and didn't ask any more questions. As they spoke, the two reached the bedroom on the second floor. As soon as they entered, Chu Luyue saw Liao Zhongshu lying on the bed and couldn't help but be shocked. In just a few days, Liao Zhongshu had lost a lot of weight. His cheeks were deeply sunken, and his eyes were dim. He looked very haggard. Seeing Chu Luyue and Ji Yurong enter, Liao Zhongshu revealed a pale smile and raised his hand with difficulty. You're here? Sit down. Mu Hongyu furrowed her brows. Why do you look worse than 2 days ago? Did you not take your medicine properly? Liao Zhongshu shook his head, his voice weak. It's fine if my body doesn't live up to expectations. But Lu Yu, it's great that you're back. Even though he was sick, he had heard about Chu Luyue's matters. Thus he was very happy to see her standing here in one piece. Chu Luyue stepped forward and put her hand on his wrist. What did the teacher say about your body? Liao Zhongshu's lips moved and he coughed. Cough, cough. It's nothing. It's not a big problem. It's just that my body is too weak, and I can't absorb the medicine properly. That's why I haven't gotten better. The teacher said to take the medicine for 2 days and see. Cough. Chu Luye frowned slightly. Mu Hongyu asked curiously. Luyu, did you see anything? Chu Luye suddenly pulled the blanket off him. Hey Luyu. Mu Hongyu jumped in fright and tried to stop her. Unfortunately, Chu Luye was too fast and couldn't stop her. Liao Zhongshu didn't expect Chu Luye to do this either. He was instantly embarrassed and tried to pull the blanket up. However, Chu Luye didn't care about their expressions. Her eyes were fixed on his left leg. A piece of flesh had been bitten off his left leg, and it was swollen beyond recognition. It was twice as thick as his other leg, and it almost tore his pants apart. Mu Hongyu exclaimed. What's going on? Liao Zhongshu's face turned pale. It's been like this since the day I came back. The teachers don't know why. Chu Luye pondered for a moment. You've been poisoned. You've been poisoned. Chapter 165. Poison. Mu Hongyu was also shocked. She did not care about her embarrassment and quickly walked forward. Are you sure? Do you know what kind of poison he was poisoned with? Chu Luye covered Liao Zhongshu with the blanket once more. Instead of answering Mu Hongyu's question, he turned to Liao Zhongshu and asked, Have your legs been itching for the past 2 days? Furthermore, they start bleeding whenever you scratch them? Liao Zhongshu nodded in a daze. That is indeed the case. How did you know? Chu Luye had only taken a glance through his clothes, yet he was able to guess it so accurately. How I know isn't important. What's important is that the poison has already spread throughout your body. In less than 3 days it will reach your lungs. At that time, there will be nothing I can do. Liao Zhongshu immediately became nervous. So serious? But I haven't even left my room since I came back. How could I be poisoned? Furthermore, the teachers didn't say anything about it. This poison is known as red blood goo, and it's an extremely rare type of poison. Once infected, the wounds on the body will fester over and over again, unable to heal. Even worse, the area around the wound will rapidly fill with blood, and the skin will become brittle. The itch will be unbearable, and the slightest touch will cause the wound to rupture. In the end, your skin will crack, and you will die of blood loss. With every word Chu Luye spoke, Mu Hongyu and Liao Zhongshu's faces turned paler. By the end, their faces were as pale as ghosts. This was especially true for Liao Zhongshu. He was already on the verge of death, and after hearing those words, he found it hard to breathe. This. I don't know what happened either. Could it be that He couldn't finish his words, but Chu Luye and Mu Hongyu knew what he was worried about. Even the teachers of the academy couldn't see through such a formidable poison, let alone treat it. This meant that he only had a few days left to live. Mu Hongyu looked worriedly at Chu Luye. Luyu, is it really that serious? Then do you have any ideas? Since you were able to recognize it, you must have a solution, right? Liao Zhongshu also looked at her with a glimmer of hope. Chu Luye remained silent for a moment. I recognize this poison, but if you want to completely cure it, you need at least 100 herbs. Most of them are extremely precious. It will be difficult to find them in a short period of time. If it was her previous life, it wouldn't be a problem for her to deal with this kind of poison. But with the current circumstances, it was really difficult. There were some herbs that could not be found even in the entire country. The light in Liao Zhongshu's eyes gradually dimming eyes. He was stunned for a moment before he smiled bitterly. I guess I can only wait. Mu Hongyu looked at Chu Luye, and then at Liao Zhongshu. Her heart felt like it was being roasted on fire. She and Liao Zhongshu had always had a good relationship. In addition, Liao Zhongshu had helped them a lot in surviving this time. The friendship between them had long surpassed that of ordinary fellow disciples. But now they were actually going to watch him die right in front of their eyes. The room fell into silence for a moment. Chu Luye suddenly asked, How did you get poisoned? Liao Zhongshu was at a loss. I don't know. I was fine before I went to Wanling Mountain. But after I came back, my wounds kept worsening. So you were poisoned in the academy after you came back? I think so. After I came back, I didn't even leave this room. As Liao Zhongshu spoke, he frowned and fell into deep thought. But I don't know what went wrong either. Ever since I came back to recuperate, I've been taking medicine and resting according to the teacher's instructions. I haven't touched anything else. Chu Luyue crossed her arms and suddenly asked, "How does Ji Yurong treat you?" "Him? He treats me very well. He has been taking care of me for the past few days. Do you suspect that he poisoned me?" Liao Zhongshu finally understood what Chu Luyue meant, but he subconsciously denied it. "That's impossible. We've been living here since the day we were admitted to the academy. We get along well. Although we're not as close as biological brothers, we have a good relationship. He has no reason to harm me." Mu Hongyu could not help but interrupt. "That's right. Lu Yu, I know that Ji Yurong. He's a good person. I don't think he would do such a sinister thing. You can't judge a book by its cover. If it wasn't him, did you poison yourself?" Chu Luyue disagreed with the two's words. If he really didn't do anything, why did Ji Yurong look so guilty when he saw her? Mu Hongyu and Liao Zhongshu were speechless. Chu Luyue's words were reasonable. What do we do now? We can't just arrest him and interrogate him, right? Then, even if he did it, he definitely wouldn't admit to it. Mu Hongyu rubbed her temples and felt that her head was hurting. Chu Luyue looked around and saw an empty bowl beside Liao Zhongshu. She could faintly smell a faint medicinal fragrance. "Is this the bowl you drink your medicine from? It's so clean." Liao Zhongshu nodded. "Every time I drink my medicine, Yurong would immediately wash the bowl. He said that the smell was too strong, and he was worried that it would affect my rest. So he would wait until I finished drinking it and wash it before bringing it back." Liao Zhongshu's voice gradually trailed off. He looked at the bowl with a strange expression. Could it really be him? At first, he thought that Ji Yurong was taking care of him and was very grateful. But now that he thought about it, it was indeed strange. He was a patient. So what if he smelled the medicine? Even he did not care. Why did Ji Yurong care so much about it? He tried to persuade Ji Yurong not to go through so much trouble, but Ji Yurong always said that it was a small matter. Mu Hongyu suddenly jumped up and ran to the bowl to examine it carefully. "Lu Yu, are you saying that there's something wrong with the medicine?" "Unfortunately, the bowl has been washed clean. There's no evidence left. Why don't we check it the next time Zhongshu drinks his medicine?" Chu Liyue's red lips twitched as she shook her head. "He won't do anything else. The previous poison is enough. We just need to wait for a few more days. Moreover, Ji Yurong should have sensed her vigilance and would not give her any chance to investigate." Mu Hongyu was dejected. "Then what should we do?" Liao Zhongshu forced a smile. "Hongyu, don't think about it. Even if we find something now, it's probably too late. My body." Chu Luyue shook her head in disagreement and smiled faintly. "The more it's like this, the more we have to investigate. We can only hope to get the antidote if we find the person who poisoned you. Rest well first. Hongyu and I will go and investigate." After telling Liao Zhongshu to rest well, Chu Luyue and Mu Hongyu left together. After they walked out of the door, Mu Hongyu looked back and worriedly asked, "What's wrong?" "Lu Yu, how are we going to investigate now? Without the antidote, Zhongshu won't last more than a few days. Will we be able to make it in time?" Chu Luyue looked up in a certain direction. "So the most important thing for us now is to stop the poison from spreading in his body." Mu Hongyu was stunned. "Didn't you say that the antidote is difficult?" "It's difficult to completely detoxify the poison, but it's not that difficult to suppress the poison." Chu Luyue walked forward as she spoke. "Hey, where are you going?" Chu Luyue did not even turn around. Heavenly Medicine Pavilion. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 166. Mu Hongyu was shocked and hurriedly followed him. Heaven Medicine Pavilion? Isn't that where the academy stores all kinds of herbs? Are you going there now, to get the herbs? Chu Luyue nodded. As the top academy in country Yaochun, Tianlu Academy should have a lot of good stuff stored there. Let's go take a look first. I'll go by myself. Go and check if Ji Yurong has been acting strangely recently, or if he's been in contact with anyone. He's from an ordinary family, so he must have gotten the poison from someone else. Mu Hongyu was a little hesitant. It's not a problem for me to check, but Heaven Medicine Pavilion, that place is the celestial physician's territory. I'm afraid it won't be easy for you to get the herbs there. Mu Hongyu's words were very tactful. In fact, for so many years, other than the celestial physician's people, it was difficult for others to even enter Heaven Medicine Pavilion. It was not that they did not allow people to enter, but the rules were too strict. The academy required that every student who wanted to get herbs from Heaven Medicine Pavilion had to make a declaration. They would only be allowed if they had a good reason. If it was the celestial physicians group, they could easily get what they wanted as long as they said that they wanted to refine medicine. However, it was not so simple for warriors and celestial physicians group. Chu Luiyue raised his brows. Then are warriors and Xian masters not qualified to go? That's not it. Actually, we only go there once in a while when we're injured. Mu Hongyu wrinkled her nose and was a little indignant. You don't know, but the celestial physicians group is very arrogant. They're very hard to please. Chu Luiyue laughed. Celestial physicians' requirements for talent were very high. Normal celestial physician did have this problem. Although I didn't cultivate there, I passed the celestial physician's exam. They won't make things difficult for me, right? Mu Hongyu pursed her lips. That might not be the case. Chu Luiyue patted her arm. Don't worry. The two of them split up. Chu Luiyue walked all the way to the back of the mountain. The Heaven Medicine Pavilion was built on the steepest mountain in Tianlu Academy. Most people would not come here for no reason. Therefore, the further up the mountain they went, the more deserted their surroundings became. After about the time it took to brew a cup of tea, Chu Luiyue finally saw the plaque that read Heaven's Medicine Pavilion. The Heavenly Medicine Pavilion had a total of 5 floors. From the surface, it looked no different from an ordinary building. However, when Chu Luiyue approached it, he felt a formless fluctuation. Outside Heaven's Medicine Pavilion, an extremely powerful barrier had been set up. Outside the bronze gate stood 2 youths who seemed to be guarding it. Seeing Chu Luiyue, one of the youths asked coldly, "Who are you? What is it?" Chu Luiyue said, "Student Chu Luiyue is here to collect the medicine." When they heard the name Chu Luiyue, a look of astonishment flashed across their faces at the same time. This name reverberated like thunder in their ears. Some time ago, she passed all 3 examinations and was admitted to the academy. She was also a genius who took first place in the warrior division and second place in the Xian master division on the same day. Even though they did not care much about the warrior division and Xian master division, they had heard this name more than once. They did not expect that she would actually come here. You are Chu Luiyue? The youth who asked the question carefully sized up Chu Luiyue. Chu Luiyue nodded. You have to declare if you want to collect medicine from Heaven's Medicine Pavilion. Fill in the form first. As he spoke, the other youth waved his sleeve, and an item flew toward Chu Luiyue. Chu Luiyue raised his hand to catch the item, and raised his eyebrows slightly. It was actually a wooden board and a writing brush. The wooden board was charred black, and was only the size of a palm. It was also very rough to the touch. Write down the item you want on this, and we will send it in for verification. After the verification, the item will be given to you. The youth spoke indifferently, as if he was doing business. Chu Luiyue flipped through the items in his hand and smiled. It seemed that Mu Hongyu was right. This group of people from Celestial Physician Division was truly extraordinarily arrogant and liked to make things difficult for others. This charred wooden board was not ordinary wood, but the trunk of a black sage vine. It was born like this, and its texture was hard. Even if an average person used a knife to carve, they might not be able to leave a mark on it. As for writing, this writing brush was clean without a speck of ink, so how could he write? Chu Luiyue waved the item in his hand. Just write it on this. The 2 youths nodded in unison, looking like they were watching a joke. Chu Luiyue did not say anything else. He picked up the brush and started writing on the wooden board. The brush did not leave a single mark on the black wooden board. Chu Luiyue paused and frowned slightly, seemingly a little surprised. The two youths looked at each other with ridicule in their eyes. Passing all 3 tests. Genius. Seems like this is all there is to it. Chu Luiyue looked up and smiled apologetically. I'm sorry. There seems to be a problem with this item. Can I trouble you to change it for me? Change it? Each person can only have one at a time. How can? One of the youths immediately refused, but before he could finish, the person beside him suddenly interrupted him. Since this is your first time here, we'll change it for you. With that, he moved his arm and threw a similar black wooden board to Chu Luiyue. Hey, Emo Liang, according to the rules you can't. Cui Yao disagreed, but he saw Emo Liang give him a look. He was stunned for a moment before he realized that Emo Liang was actually trying to tease Chu Luiyue. She couldn't write one, and she still couldn't write another one. Wouldn't that be embarrassing? Ever since Chu Luiyue entered the academy, she had always been praised and in the limelight. Now was the perfect time to show her who was the boss. So many people praised her as a genius, but now it seemed that her brain wasn't that bright. The two exchanged a look of understanding and didn't say anything else. They just looked at Chu Luiyue, waiting for her to make a fool of herself. Sure enough, Chu Luiyue still couldn't leave a mark on it. She paused, seeming a little embarrassed and confused. Cui Yao and Emo Liang almost couldn't hold back their smiles. Chu Luiyue, it seems like there's a problem with this one too. How about we change it for you? Emo Liang said loudly, his tone mocking. Chu Luiyue looked at him and hesitated for a moment before saying, Then I'll have to trouble you. No trouble, no trouble. We're all from the same school, so it's only right that we help each other. Emo Liang held back his laughter and threw another wooden board to Chu Luiyue. This time, Chu Luiyue had a total of 3 boards in her hands. Hey, Chu Luiyue, if this still doesn't work, why don't we just give you a few more? Once you try 100 times, you'll definitely find a good one, right? Ha 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 ha. Cui Yao didn't hide his ridicule and laughed out loud. Even a fool would be able to see the problem at this point. But unexpectedly, Chu Luiyue didn't show the slightest bit of embarrassment. Instead, she smiled and shook her head. No need, these are enough. With that, she walked to the side and plucked an apricot leaf. Seeing her actions, Cui Yao's laughter came to an abrupt stop. Emo Liang also felt a bit uneasy. Chu Luiyue used the apricot leaf to lightly wipe the blackboard, then started writing again. As the tip of the brush moved, a smooth white handwriting could be clearly seen. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from LoveNet. Chapter 167. Black sage vine and bitter apricot leaf were natural enemies. After wiping with bitter apricot leaf, a thin layer of coating would be left. Although the brush didn't have ink, it was made of snow wolf fur and could easily leave a mark on it. This method was simple, but those who didn't understand it would be stumped. The Cui and Yao duo wanted to use this to make things difficult for Chu Luiyue and embarrass her once. When Chu Luiyue said that the item was broken and asked to change it, the two were secretly pleased with themselves, thinking that they had succeeded in pranking her. But now, looking at the words on the blackboard, they couldn't laugh anymore. The smile on Cui Yao's face didn't fade, but his eyes were full of shock. He looked very stiff and strange. Emo Liang wasn't any better. He realized almost immediately, Chu Luiyue did it on purpose. She clearly knew what to do, but pretended not to know. They thought that they had tricked her, but in fact, they were under her control. When the two of them were laughing at her, she was probably very pleased with herself. Chu Luiyue wrote a line, then looked up at the two with a slight smile. So this thing isn't broken. Look, it's written quite smoothly. Cui Yao's expression was so ugly that it looked like he had swallowed a fly. Emo Liang pointed at Chu Luiyue, suppressing his anger. You already knew how to write this. You tricked us. Chu Luiyue blinked. That's right. She said it so casually that the two men didn't know what to say for a moment. This Chu Luiyue was too arrogant. You. How dare you? Chu Luiyue, do you know where you are? How dare you deceive us in public? Emo Liang cursed angrily. Chu Luiyue smiled faintly. Weren't you two the ones who made things difficult for me first? I just came to take some herbs, and you tried to stop me. I'm just giving you a taste of your own medicine. Is that too much? Chu Liyue's words silenced the two. Yes, it was true that they were the first to make things difficult for her. But this was the usual practice. Other than the celestial physician, everyone who came here was always like this. Chu Liyue was no exception. It was just that he didn't expect that he would kick an iron plate. Not only did he fail to trick Chu Liyue, but he also became a joke. Chu Liyue lowered his head and continued writing. Senior brothers, please wait for a moment. I still have a lot of things to write. When Cui Yao and Cui Yao heard this, they immediately looked over, only to see Chu Liyue's pen moving like a dragon. His movements were smooth, as if he didn't need to think at all. In a short period of time, the black wooden board was already half filled. However, Chu Liyue had no intention of stopping. Only then did the two of them realize that things seemed to have spiraled out of control. Chu Liyue had clearly come prepared. Most importantly, she had 3 black wooden boards in her hands. Mo Liang swallowed his saliva with difficulty. Chu Liyue, each person can only fill in 1 piece of paper at a time. Hurry up and return the remaining 2 black sage vines. Chu Liyue didn't even raise her head. Senior brother, you gave these to me. There's no reason why I can't write them, right? Cold sweat dripped down Mo Liang's forehead. I told you to stop writing. If the teacher knew that he had given Chu Liyue 3 black sage vines at once, he would definitely punish him. At this moment, Chu Liyue had already filled up the first black sage vine. She took the remaining 2 and smiled brightly at the 2. I really can't refuse senior brother's kindness. With that, she continued to write on the 2 blank black sage vines. What a joke! To help Liao Zhongshu stop the poison, she needed a lot of herbs. Moreover, these 2 people were deliberately asking for trouble. Wouldn't it be inappropriate if she didn't repay them properly? Seeing Chu Liyue's actions, Mo Liang's heart sank bit by bit. Finally, Chu Liyue filled up the 3 black sage vines and handed them over. Senior brother, these are the herbs I need this time. Please send them in for the teacher's approval. Mo Liang's body stiffened. Seeing the smile on Chu Liyue's face, Cui Yao was furious. She snatched the things away. Don't bite off more than you can chew. I'd like to see if the teacher will approve it for you. With that, she opened the door and walked in. Bang! The door closed again. Chu Liyue shrugged, took a few steps back, and waited patiently. Mo Liang was jolted awake by the sound of the door closing and returned to his senses. Yes, Cui Yao was right. Chu Liyue's writing wasn't the most important thing. As long as the teacher didn't approve it, it would be useless for her to write. She wasn't from the Celestial Physicians team, and this was her first time here. If she only wanted 1 or 2 ordinary herbs, the teacher might give them to her. However, she had asked for too much from the start. This request would definitely not be approved. With that thought, he finally heaved a sigh of relief. The waiting time was always unbearable. Mo Liang glanced at the door from time to time, but Cui Yao didn't come out. His mood became more and more restless. That's not right. The teacher would definitely reject the request. Cui Yao should have come out by now after being in there for so long. Why hasn't she come out yet? He looked back at Chu Liyue, only to see her standing there with her hands behind her back. She looked relaxed, as if she wasn't worried about her request at all. This made him even more annoyed and he frowned. After another 15 minutes, the door opened again and Cui Yao came out. Apart from the black sage vine that had already been erased, he didn't have any other herbs in his hand. He didn't pass. Mo Liang was delighted and quickly went up to him. What took you so long? Is the teacher busy? Is that why he rejected me so late? Cui Yao's expression was a little strange. She handed the black sage vine to Mo Liang and walked to her seat on the other side without saying anything. Mo Liang felt something was wrong. What's wrong? Cui Yao looked at Chu Liyue with a complicated expression and said with difficulty. Her list has passed. How is that possible? Mo Liang jumped to his feet in disbelief. Cui Yao rubbed her face. Teachers Warong said that there were too many things, and some of them were placed in remote locations. He said that it would take some time to prepare them. Later, he will personally come out with the things. Love Network has a better reading experience. Chapter 168. Emol Yang thought he was hallucinating, but Cui Yao didn't seem to be joking. He was stunned for a while before he muttered, "How? How is this possible?" Cui Yao didn't want to say another word. How could he not be shocked? He wanted to ask the same question too. When he handed the list over, Mr. Zhuarong frowned and looked at it for a long time. However, as he looked at it, his brows relaxed, and there was a hint of excitement in his eyes. Then, he put aside his work and went to prepare the herbs himself. Cui Yao thought of the smile on Mr. Zhuarong's face when he left and felt awkward. Mr. Zhuarong had always been strict. He wouldn't even approve the list of celestial physician students. However, Chu Luiyue, she wrote 3 black sage vines. How could she do that? "Thank you, senior. I'll wait here then," Chu Luiyue said with a smile. Cui Yao looked away. Out of sight, out of mind. Emol Yang wanted to ask more, but seeing Cui Yao's expression, he could only swallow his words. There was an awkward silence in the room. After a few minutes, the door finally opened again. A slightly plump middle-aged man walked out quickly. When he saw Chu Luiyue standing in front of the door, his eyes lit up. "You're Chu Luiyue?" Chu Luiyue nodded. "Greetings, Mr. Zhuarong." Zhuarong laughed and waved a golden bag in his hand. "There's no need to stand on ceremony. The things you want are all here." Chu Luiyue was surprised. "A Qingquan bag? You know what this is?" Zhuarong didn't expect Chu Luiyue to recognize the Qingquan bag. However, on second thought, she used to be the eldest daughter of the Chu family. It wasn't surprising that she knew about it. "That's right. This is indeed a Qingquan bag. You asked for too many things, so I put them all here for convenience's sake. After you go back, take out all the things inside and return this Qingquan bag." Zhuarong's words were filled with pride, but Emol Yang and the other man beside him had already widened their eyes in shock. Zhuarong Laosher is actually so generous to Chu Luiyue. That Qingquan pouch was extremely precious. It was priceless. Even the teachers in the academy might not necessarily have one. Zhuarong Laosher had only obtained this item because he had saved a person of high status a few years ago. At that time, he had attracted the envy of many people. Normally, it would be difficult for them to even take a look at it. However, Mr. Zhuarong had actually lent it to Chu Luiyue. Chu Luiyue was also very surprised. If it was in her previous life, a Qingquan bag wouldn't be considered a treasure to her. However, this was country Yao Chen, so there shouldn't be many people who had it. This was the first time Mr. Zhuarong had met her, and he was really taking care of her. The smile on her face deepened. She took a few steps forward and took the Qingquan bag with both hands. "Thank you, Mr. Zhuarong. I will return it as soon as possible." How could he not take advantage of a free lunch? "There's no rush. I have a few questions that I would like to ask you. You have to answer truthfully." Chu Luiyue looked at his expression and already guessed what he wanted to ask. She nodded lightly. "Teacher, please ask. I will definitely tell you everything I know." Zhuarong chuckled. "All right. Tell me first. Did you write that list yourself?" "Yes." Zhuarong's eyes suddenly lit up. "Why did you write this list? Are you refining medicine for someone?" Chu Luiyue didn't hide it. "Yes, this medicine is indeed for a friend. Is that person Liao Zhongshu?" Zhuarong asked anxiously. Chu Luiyue's lips curled up slightly. "That's right. It's him. I knew it." Zhuarong slapped his thigh. Previously, he had also gone to check on Liao Zhongshu's injuries. He secretly guessed that he might have been poisoned, but he didn't know what kind of poison it was. Even after discussing it with the other teachers, he still couldn't come to a conclusion. However, when he saw Chu Luiyue's list, he suddenly realized that there were a few medicinal herbs in the list that seemed to be compatible with Liao Zhongshu's current condition. This was also the reason why he had to personally prepare the medicinal herbs. He wanted to meet Chu Luiyue and get to the bottom of this matter. You know about his condition?" Zhuarong asked vaguely. Chu Luiyue's eyes flickered slightly. "I have seen a similar situation in the past." Zhuarong took a deep breath. "So this prescription? I came across this prescription by chance, and I don't remember it very clearly. Since I have no other choice, I decided to give it a try." As soon as Chu Luiyue said those words, Disappointment surfaced on Zhuorong's face. I see. I thought that. He thought that Chu Luiyue was the one who came up with this prescription. However, upon thinking about it, he found this idea ridiculous. There were so many teachers in the academy who couldn't do anything about it. How could a mere student like Chu Luiyue come up with such a prescription? Even the principal might not be able to do it. Zhuorong's agitation gradually calmed down, but he was still pleased that Chu Luiyue was able to help Liao Zhongshu. You can head back first. I will personally head over with the other teachers later. Chu Luiyue nodded. Then, I will take my leave. With that, she turned around and left with the Cosmos sack. Zhuorong turned to the two behind him. In the future, if that lass wants to take medicinal herbs, just let her do so. Don't let what happened today happen a second time. Do you understand? Cui Yao and Emo Liang were confused by the conversation, but they could vaguely sense that Chu Luiyue did have some talent in the field of celestial physician. Furthermore, Zhuorong also thought highly of her, so they didn't dare to say anything else. They could only agree to it. Yes, I will definitely keep it in mind. When Zhuorong saw that the two of them still looked somewhat unwilling, he shook his head inwardly and said earnestly. He said in a serious tone, "Don't think that you are better than others just because you are a celestial physician. There will always be someone better than you." Emo Liang couldn't help but ask, "Mr. Zhuorong, do you mean that Chu Luiyue is more talented than us?" Zhuorong looked at the two with pity. "She keeps a low profile, but you think she is useless. Don't say such childish things in the future. You will only make a fool of yourself. Do you understand? Digression. It's my birthday today. More chapters tonight. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Iowa. Chapter 169. Chu Luiyue brought the herbs back to her residence. She took out all the herbs from the Qianquan bag and placed them in order. Just as she was about to return to Heaven's Medicine Pavilion to return the Qianquan bag to Zhuorong, she heard a commotion outside. She walked to the door, and just as she opened it, she saw Zhuorong bringing a few other teachers into the courtyard. When Zhuorong saw her, he immediately smiled. "Luyu, these are the teachers who diagnosed Liao Zhongshu previously. I brought them here to see you." The few teachers silently sized up Chu Luiyue. Zhuorong said that Chu Luiyue knew what kind of poison Liao Zhongshu was afflicted with, and had a way to temporarily suppress the poison in his body. They were shocked and curious, so they followed Zhuorong here. However, they were more suspicious in their hearts. Chu Luiyue didn't even go to the celestial physician's place to cultivate. Furthermore, during the entrance examination, didn't they say that her talent in this field was limited? Why did it sound like she was very formidable now? Chu Luiyue knew that they weren't here to see her, but to see how she was going to refine those herbs. She didn't point it out. She greeted the teachers and invited them into the house. "Zhuorong teacher, you came at the right time. I just took out the herbs from the Qianquan bag and returned it to you," Chu Luiyue said as she returned the Qianquan bag to Zhuorong. Zhuorong accepted it with a smile. "You're quite nimble. If there's such a thing in the future, don't hesitate to ask." Chu Luiyue pursed her lips and smiled. "Then, Luyu will thank you in advance." The conversation between the two of them made the other teachers beside them secretly shocked. Zhuorong usually treasured this Qianquan bag, so much that he wouldn't even let them borrow it. But now he was very generous to Chu Luiyue. "Those are the herbs you took from Heaven's Medicine Pavilion?" Another teacher pointed at the jade boxes piled up in the room and asked, "Isn't this a little too much?" Chu Luiyue smiled faintly. "Teacher Xiansong, don't worry. Luyu knows how difficult it is to obtain these herbs. He will definitely make the best use of them, and won't waste any of them." Xiansong looked at her suspiciously. "Make the best use of everything? How are you going to refine so many herbs by yourself? Aren't you exaggerating a little?" Chu Luiyue didn't try to defend himself. Enough. Xiansong, you don't even know what kind of poison Liao Zhongshu was poisoned with. Why are you still talking so much? Zhuorong's words made Xiansong swallow his remaining words. He snorted. "Good. Let's hear what you have to say first." The remaining few immediately pricked up their ears. Chu Luiyue was slightly moved. Actually, I don't know much about this poison. I've only seen it by chance. Of course, she couldn't completely reveal her background, so she simply mentioned a few words. Her words were very vague. Zhuorong and the others wanted to ask more, but they realized that Chu Luiyue didn't seem to know everything either. In the end, they could only give up. So you're saying that you don't have complete confidence in this recipe? Aren't you treating Liao Zhongshu's life like a game? What if something happens? Xian Song was silent for a while before he spoke with a frown. What else can happen? Others might not know. But don't you know Liao Zhongshu's current situation? If we delay for a few more days, he'll be dead by now. What's there to talk about? Zhuorong impatiently interrupted Xian Song and waved his hand at Chu Luiyue. This guy is stubborn and inflexible. Lu Yu, don't worry about him. Just do whatever you want. Xian Song resentfully shut his mouth. Chu Luiyue sighed softly in her heart. She originally wanted to quietly refine the medicine for Liao Zhongshu, but she didn't expect Zhuorong to be so interested in this matter. From the looks of it, they clearly wanted to see how she would refine the medicine. Chu Luiyue decided to ignore them. She walked over to take out the herbs and began to prepare them one by one. The Imperial Palace, the Imperial Study. Rong Xiao stood quietly outside the door, wearing a large black cloak. He was tall and slender, and just by standing there, he seemed to make the surrounding scenery lose its color. Many palace maids looked at him from afar, their eyes full of admiration. Your Highness Princely is really good looking. I don't think there's anyone in the imperial capital who can compare to him, just from his elegant bearing alone. Isn't that so? When His Highness Princely appeared at the Crown Prince's birthday banquet, he won the hearts of countless women. It's a pity that His Highness Princely's health isn't good, and he doesn't come to the palace often. It's hard to even meet him. I wonder which noble lady will have the honor of marrying His Highness Princely in the future. Sigh. It's a pity that His Highness Princely is weak and doesn't have any real power. He's just an idle prince and can't be considered the best. So what? It's already a lifetime of good fortune to be able to see that face every day. Who dares to ask for more? His Highness Princely used to be very powerful, but now... Sho, you dare to say that? Do you want to die? Bang! The sound of something breaking suddenly came from the study. The palace servants hiding in the dark were startled and immediately scattered like birds and beasts. Rong Xiao looked up, and one couldn't see any emotions in his deep eyes. Someone hurriedly retreated from the imperial study. Your Majesty, please calm down. Your Majesty, please calm down. I'll leave now. This battered and exhausted person was the first elder of the Chu family, Chu Shao. He wiped the cold sweat off his head. His entire body was covered in dust. He originally came to see His Majesty today to plead for the Crown Prince, but he didn't expect that the moment he mentioned the Crown Prince, His Majesty would fly into a rage and chase him out. Only then did he realize that the Crown Prince had really angered His Majesty this time. He was the one who was truly stupid to come here so rashly. Chu Shao heaved a heavy sigh. Too many things had happened during this period of time. His mind was actually starting to become muddled. Turning to any doctor in a desperate situation had instead put himself and the Crown Prince in even more danger. Eunuch Min also walked out and glanced at Chu Shao. Lord Chu Shao, please don't come to the palace during this period of time. Chu Shao wanted to say something but hesitated. In the end, he could only agree. Thank you, Eunuch Min. Eunuch Min despised him in his heart. Chu Shao was old and muddle-headed. Chu Ning was now highly favored by the emperor and was already somewhat dissatisfied with the Chu family. Yet he chose to enter the palace at this time to plead for the Crown Prince. Was he not afraid of dragging the entire Chu family down with him? Eunuch Min couldn't be bothered with him. He looked up at Rong Xiao, who was standing not far away. His face immediately filled with an eager smile as he took small steps forward. Your Highness Princely, you're finally here. His Majesty has been missing you for the past few days. Rong Xiao's lips curled into a lazy smile as he said indifferently, My health hasn't been very good lately. I haven't been feeling well for the past few days. Now that I've recovered a little, I immediately came to visit Imperial Father. Please come in. His Majesty was still angry. If it were an ordinary person, eunuch men wouldn't dare to invite them in. But Princely was different. When Chu Xiao heard this, he couldn't help but look up at Princely, who rarely showed himself. Rong Xiao nonchalantly glanced at him, nodded, and walked toward the imperial study. Chu Xiao couldn't help but look over, but eunuch men quickly urged him to leave. The moment Rong Xiao entered the room, he saw shattered teacups scattered all over the floor. Emperor Jiawen's face was still filled with anger. Rong Xiao lightly smiled. "Father, what made you so angry? It's not worth mentioning." When Emperor Jiawen saw him, his expression became much gentler. "On the other hand, have you been feeling better recently?" "Thank you for your concern, father. I'm already much better, and I can already go out and walk around these few days." Emperor Jiawen heaved a sigh of relief, but he still knitted his brows. "You can't keep being like this. When there's a chance, I'll definitely find a stronger celestial physician to take a look at you." Rong Xiao smiled and looked nonchalant. "I was born like this, and I've already gotten used to it. Father, you don't have to be too worried." "How can I not be worried? You're me. You didn't have a mother to take care of you when you were young. Then, you left the imperial city at a young age, and went to Mingyue Tianshan alone. I owe you a lot for so many years." Rong Xiao looked down. "Father, you're being too serious. Your son understands your intentions." Emperor Jiawen looked at him for a while before shaking his head and sighing. "You've always been the most sensible, unlike those useless ones. Forget it. You don't like these things, so I won't talk to you anymore. I called you here today to ask you something. You've been back in the imperial city for quite some time. Have you taken a liking to any noble lady?" Rong Xiao was dazed. "Imperial father, what are you?" Emperor Jiawen laughed out loud. "You're already a prince now, but you don't even have anyone to serve you. When you start a family, you naturally have to start a family before you start a career. I've already asked my subordinates to prepare quite a number of portraits of noble ladies of suitable age. You can choose from them and choose a date to get married." Digression, cough. I'll add one more chapter today and pick another day. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from IUN. Chapter 170. Rong Xiao was silent for a moment. He didn't expect that his father had called him here for this matter. "Father, my brothers haven't gotten married yet, so it seems a little too early for me to think about this." Emperor Jiawen sneered. "Those royal brothers of yours, none of them make me feel at ease. Let's not talk about them. I haven't been able to take care of you for so many years, so I naturally have to help you choose a suitable marriage." Emperor Jiawen raised his chin. "I know that you haven't been back for long, and you rarely go out. Hence, you're not familiar with the ladies in the imperial city. The portraits are all there. You can take a look at them yourself. If you find one that you like, just tell me." Emperor Jiawen waved his hands, and looked as if he would immediately grant the marriage to whoever Rong Xiao chose. This scene made Rong Xiao unsure whether to laugh or cry. He didn't even look at the portraits as he directly said, "Father, I've always been weak." "Imperial father, this son has been frail and sickly since young. If I were to marry a wife, I would only be causing trouble for other people. Let's put this matter aside for now." "What the hell are you talking about? Whoever marries you, that's her fortune. Who dares to say that you're a burden? Just pick one." When Emperor Jiawen heard Rong Xiao say this, his face immediately darkened. Speaking of which, Rong Xiao was the prince who had been by his side for the shortest amount of time. Logically speaking, the relationship between the father and son wasn't very deep. However, nobody knew that he loved this child the most in his heart. The Xi family's fourth young lady is quite talented, but it's a pity that she's a concubine, so she's not good enough for you. However, if you like her, you can marry her and make her your consort first. The Liu family comes from a business family, and the ladies in the family all have some power, so I don't like them. The Yang family's big missy might be mediocre, but her looks and temper are top-notch. She's worthy of being called gentle and virtuous. You can take a look at her first. Oh right, there's also Count Jinbei's daughter. You." Emperor Jiawen almost listed all the most outstanding ladies in the imperial city. To an ordinary person, these ladies all came from noble backgrounds, and they were all excellent. But in Emperor Jiawen's eyes, they all had their flaws. However, he could not be blamed for this. Just Rong Xiu's looks alone were enough to make most of the girls pale in comparison. Moreover, he was one of the only two princes with a title. Once he got married, he would be endlessly favored. Emperor Jiawen also raised his eyebrows, and it was understandable that his standards were higher. As for Rong Xiu's body, in his opinion, it was not a big problem at all. When Rong Xiu saw Emperor Jiawen's excited look, he raised his brows, clenched his fist and coughed twice. Emperor Jiawen paused and looked at him worriedly. "Why are you coughing again? Is your body still not fully recovered?" Rong Xiu shook his head. His lips were slightly pale as he smiled. "Your son is fine. Imperial father, you don't have to worry, cough cough." Seeing him like this, Emperor Jiawen didn't have the mood to continue the topic. "Forget it. Since you're not willing, let's not talk about it today. However, you still have to take this matter to heart. If you have time, come out more often, and see if there's anyone you like. I can't directly decide for you, so everything depends on you." Rong Xiu slightly bowed. "Thank you for your understanding, Imperial Father." Emperor Jiawen shook his head and sighed. "I wonder what kind of woman you like." "What kind of woman I like?" A beautiful face flashed across Rong Xiu's mind. Even though she was a little immature, she had already started to show her beauty, especially that pair of eyes. They were as bright and moving as the starry night. His gaze moved slightly, and he hid the emotions in his eyes. "Your son still has a request." "Oh, after you came back to the imperial city, you've been resting in your residence. This is the first time you've taken the initiative to make a request to me. How rare. Tell me about it." Rong Xiu was silent for a moment. "I've been away for many years and didn't have the chance to pay respects to my mother. Now that I'm back, I want to fulfill my duty as a son." Upon hearing Rong Xiu mention his mother, Emperor Jiawen was dazed. He then leaned against the chair side and closed his eyes. "She did leave for many years." At this moment, Emperor Jiawen seemed to have aged a lot, and his tone was filled with unconcealable regret and reminiscence. "It's good that you still miss your mother. That's good. But you should know that your mother's mausoleum isn't in the Imperial Mausoleum." Rong Xiu looked calm. "I know. I remember that you once stayed in Tianlu Academy for a very long time." "That's right. Back then, she didn't want to stay in the palace, so she went to Tianlu Academy. Your mother was close to Tianlu Academy's director back then, and she was talented and capable. Hence, she became half a teacher in the academy. She stayed there for 2 years until she passed away, and she never came back." Emperor Jiawen spoke slowly, as if he were telling a story that had nothing to do with him. However, his helpless and yearning expression, as well as his slightly trembling hands, clearly indicated that his heart was not as calm as it seemed. Even though many years had passed, that person and those things were still deeply engraved in his heart, and they couldn't be erased. Rong Xiu quietly glanced at him, and his gaze was calm without any ripples. It was as if he didn't care about Emperor Jiawen's nostalgic look. However, he quickly hid his nonchalant expression. "So, I want to go to Tianlu Academy to see where my mother used to stay. Can you allow me to do so?" Emperor Jiawen opened his eyes. The young man in front of him had unknowingly become much taller. He stood there with his back straight, and the sunlight shone on his jade-like face clearly. They were very similar to each other, especially the faint, distant and noble aura between their eyebrows. It was as if they were carved from the same mold. Hence, every time he saw this face, he would be extra patient and dote on it. "Of course, I won't disagree. However, you have to ask for the director's opinion on this matter. Normal people can't enter Tianlu Academy, but your mother's status is different. Perhaps the director will be extra lenient on you." Rong Xiu's thin lips curved up slightly. "I've already written a letter to ask about the director, and he has already agreed." Emperor Jiawen was taken aback. "Then since that's the case, you can just go there directly. Love Network provided a better reading experience for mobile users." Chapter 171. At Tianlu Academy. Chu Luiyue started processing the herbs while Zhuorong and the other teachers watched. She first took out a palm-sized white shell and carefully rubbed it on a grindstone. After a while, fine white powder fell off. The material was thick, and it was very troublesome to grind it. Chu Luiyue rubbed it for about 15 minutes, but there was still more than half of it left. Xiansong, who was at the side, tried to hold it in. In the end, when he saw how clumsy Chu Luiyue was, he finally spoke up. Chu Luiyue, do you know that this isn't how you handle the white elephant shell? Chu Luiyue looked up in shock. Really? But didn't the books say that the white elephant shell needs to be ground into powder for it to be fully effective? Xiansong rubbed his glabella. That's right. But based on your current speed, how long will it take for you to completely grind this white elephant shell into powder? Moreover, this is only the first one. There's another one in the box. Have you calculated how much time you'll need? Chu Luiyue seemed to be in a predicament as she humbly asked for advice. Then what do you think we should do? Xiansong shook his head in disappointment and said to Zhuorong, Look at her. Look at her. She's so clumsy. Where's the slightest bit of intelligence? She can't even handle one white elephant shell, let alone all the other herbs. I think we don't have to stay here and watch. Her method is most likely unreliable. As for Liao Zhongshu's injury, I'll go back and think of a way myself. Then, Xiansong ignored Zhuorong's protests and stood up to leave. The remaining teachers looked at each other awkwardly. Zhuorong, this. Xiansong's words make sense. Chu Luiyue had already said that she didn't come up with the prescription on her own. Instead, she accidentally got it from someone else. Besides, she didn't remember it very clearly, and most of it was just guessing. It's really hard to say if it's effective. I heard that she barely passed the entrance exam. I think she really doesn't have much talent. Zhuorong, you're probably thinking too much this time. I'd better go back and think of a way with Xiansong. Everyone, I'll take my leave first. Wait for me. I still have some matters to attend to. Xiansong left with 2 teachers, leaving only Zhuorong and another teacher. The atmosphere was a little awkward. Chu Luiyue asked apologetically, Mr. Zhuorong, did I do something wrong? Zhuorong coughed. It's nothing. They just have their own things to do. You don't have to worry about them. Just focus on refining medicine. Chu Luiyue wanted to say something but hesitated. In the end, he didn't say anything and continued polishing the white elephant shell. After a while, she finally grinded it into powder. She wiped her sweat and took out a second white elephant shell to start polishing. Finally, the other teacher could not stand it any longer and left after apologizing to Zhuorong. Zhuorong looked at Chu Luiyue in confusion. Could it be that he was wrong? Chu Luiyue's talent was actually not as outstanding as he had expected? But if that was the case, how did she directly resolve the difficulties Cui Yao and Cui Yao had placed her in? Zhuorong stared at Chu Luiyue and pondered for a long time. A vague idea appeared in his mind. Could it be that Chu Luiyue was deliberately hiding her talent? But why? Many people dreamed of having the talent of a celestial physician. With such potential, anyone would be eager to show it to others. Only Chu Luiyue was a little strange. Zhuorong thought for a while. He didn't want to deliberately expose it, so he found an excuse and left. In the end, only Chu Luiyue was left in the room. She exhaled softly. She didn't want these people to notice anything, so she deliberately pretended that she was not good at anything. It didn't matter if she was despised by them. The most important thing was to refine the medicine well. Zhuorong seemed to have noticed something, but he didn't pursue the matter. Chu Luiyue closed the door and windows properly before focusing her attention on the pile of herbs. Now, there wasn't much time left. Sinhu asked around in the school and confirmed that Gu Mingfeng hadn't come to school for the past 2 days. He specially asked a teacher for leave and went out to look for Gu Mingfeng. Of course, he wouldn't be able to find him so quickly by himself. Fortunately, Sinhu had a group of friends in the imperial capital. As long as he shouted, someone would immediately help him. After running around for half a day, he finally found Gu Mingfeng in a dilapidated house in the evening. But when he saw Gu Mingfeng, Sinhu was shocked. His face and body were covered in injuries. What happened to you? Who hit you? Sinhu was furious. We'll take revenge for you. Gu Mingfeng dodged, as if he didn't want others to see him in such a sorry state. However, when he heard Sinhu's words, he paused. In the end, he calmly revealed his injury. The corners of his mouth twitched. Thank you. But you're not his match, so forget it. Sinhu glared at him. What do you mean forget it? Even if I'm not his match, there's still Lu Yu and Hong Yu. They asked me to look for you. If they see you like this, they won't let it go so easily. Gu Mingfeng's heart skipped a beat. They asked you to come? Yes. You should know that Lu Yu is back safely. We planned to celebrate at Phoenix Restaurant today, but you and Zhongshu can't go. Lu Yu and Hong Yu went to look after Zhongshu, and they asked me to come out and find you. Gu Mingfeng's throat seemed to be blocked by something. It took him a while to find his voice. It's the Gu family. Sinhu's voice suddenly rose. The Gu family? Why did they do this to you? Didn't you already? Gu Mingfeng didn't say anything. Because he was chased out of the Gu family, many people came to find trouble with him. Over the years, many people in the Gu family didn't like him. If they could make him suffer now, it would be a great achievement for Gu Yunfei. Who wouldn't do it? He wanted to return to school after his injuries recovered. But he didn't expect Sinhu to come looking for him. Sinhu patted him on the shoulder and said seriously, Don't worry. Don't worry. We are friends who have gone through life and death together. We definitely won't ignore you. Let's go back first. Lu Yu and Hong Yu are still waiting for us. Gu Meifeng didn't know what he was feeling. After hesitating for a long time, he finally nodded. Okay. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 172. After Zhuo Rong and the rest left, Chu Liuyue's actions became much faster. She stretched out her hand and with a thought, a red flame suddenly appeared in her fair palm. That small cluster of flame was as agile as a spirit. Although it was weak, it was filled with vitality. Chu Liuyue's eyes widened slightly. This was the first time she summoned her own force, after officially becoming a rank 1 warrior. If it was a normal rank 1 warrior, it would be impossible to draw the force out of their body at this stage. Only those who had broken through to rank 4 could do it. But a celestial physician was different. A celestial physician used force to refine medicine. Chu Liyue was only a rank 1 warrior now, so the force she could summon was just a small cluster. Although it was not enough to refine medicine, it was much better than using the big pot to refine medicine. Chu Liyue found a square cauldron for refining medicine, and placed her hand on the cauldron's handle, injecting the flame into it. This square cauldron for refining medicine was given by Second Master Yan. When Chu Liyue was checking the gift, she took a fancy to it, and thought that she was lacking one. So she brought it to the academy. Hua! That small spark fell into the square cauldron, and instantly burned fiercely. Chu Liyue's eyes lit up. This square cauldron was really good stuff. Previously she only felt that the material of this square cauldron was good, but she didn't expect the effect to be so unexpected. Using this square cauldron to refine medicine could save her a lot of energy. With such a convenient thing, Chu Liyue heaved a sigh of relief, and prepared to put the herbs in one by one. When the second white elephant shell fell into it, it was immediately engulfed by the red flame. In a blink of an eye, it turned into a handful of powder. Chu Liyue was stunned for a moment. A celestial physician used force to refine medicine, and her speed was naturally incomparable to ordinary people. But wasn't this too fast? Did her force have such a strong effect on herbs? Chu Liyue suddenly realized something. She pursed her lips, and tried to put in the second herb. It was 100-year-old Heavengard ginseng. It was as long as a person's forearm, and several vines were tightly wrapped around it. It was cold to the touch, and its texture was hard. The most useful part of this Heavengard ginseng was the vine in the middle. However, if one wanted to fully utilize its medicinal properties, they would have to squeeze out its juice, which would take a lot of effort. Chu Liyue carefully controlled the flame, and the tongue of the flame gently licked the Heavengard ginseng. The tendrils on the outside quickly withered, and a drop of yellowish-brown medicinal juice appeared in the square cauldron. Chu Liyue stared blankly, not daring to believe it for a moment. This This refining speed was almost comparable to a third-grade celestial physician. Generally speaking, the stronger a celestial physician was, the faster the efficiency of refining medicine would be. She was prepared to fight a long battle, but she never thought that her speed would be so fast. Most importantly, the concoction that was refined was extremely clear and clean, extremely pure. In this way, it would save her a lot of effort, and the effect of the medicine would be even better. Chu Liyue stared at it for a while, still feeling a little incredulous. In her previous life, she had a rare Tianjing Yuan meridian. Whether it was as a martial artist, a Xian master, or a celestial physician, she had all the advantages. The force nourished by the Tianjing Yuan meridian was naturally incomparable to ordinary people in terms of refining medicine. But now, she clearly only had a Daijing Yuan meridian, and it was not much worse than her previous Tianjing Yuan meridian. There was definitely a problem. Chu Liyue had seen a celestial physician with a Daijing Yuan meridian before. Even if they had cultivated for many years, they were naturally limited by force and could not catch up to the Tianjing Yuan meridian. But now, Chu Liyue almost wanted to check again if she had a Daijing Yuan meridian. She took a deep breath and calmed herself down. It was impossible for her to remember something like this wrongly. This body, after reconstructing the Yuan meridian, was indeed a Daijing Yuan meridian. But the force nourished by this Yuan meridian was indeed comparable to the Tianjing Yuan meridian. Chu Liyue's heart beat wildly. Her Yuan meridian would perhaps become her greatest reliance. Chu Liyue closed her eyes and suppressed the surging emotions in her heart. When she opened her eyes again, the shock and suspicion in her eyes had all faded away, and she had regained her usual calmness. But no one knew what kind of storm the surging undercurrent under the calmness would stir up in the future. Chu Liyue began to methodically put in the remaining medicinal herbs. Time passed by slowly. When night fell, the various medicinal herbs that had been piled up like a small mountain in the room had all been processed by Chu Liyue. Flames burned in the square cauldron, and the various medicinal herbs merged into a ball of dark green liquid that quietly floated in the air. A strong medicinal fragrance permeated the air. "Liyue, I'm back." Mu Hongyu's voice came from outside the door. Chu Liyue poured another ball of flames into the square cauldron before walking over to open the door. "Liyue, your guess is so accurate. That Jiyurong actually. What's that smell? It's so fragrant." Mu Hongyu's face was filled with excitement, but before she could finish her sentence, her attention was attracted by the medicinal fragrance. She looked over and saw that there was a square cauldron in the middle of the room, and there was a red flame burning in it. Her eyes widened in shock. "Damn! Liyue, you're actually refining medicine?" Chu Liyue didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he pulled her into the room, closed the door and said, "Didn't I tell you that I was going to Heaven Medicine Pavilion? You didn't say that you could actually refine medicine like this." Mu Hongyu walked over in amazement. "Such a fierce flame. Didn't you say that you were only a stage 1 warrior? How did you have such an abundant amount of force to refine medicine?" Although she wasn't a celestial physician, she knew that celestial physicians would use force to transform into flames when refining medicine. She knew that she didn't have this ability, so she couldn't be a celestial physician. However, Chu Liyue, this wasn't something that a stage 1 warrior could do. Seeing Mu Hongyu like this, Chu Liyue could only secretly rejoice that she came back late and didn't see the medicinal herbs piled up in the room. Otherwise, she would probably tear the roof off the house. "Didn't you say that you found something just now? How's that Jiyurong?" Chu Liyue changed the topic without batting an eyelid. Mu Hongyu then returned to her senses and hurriedly said, Yes. Let me tell you, that Jiyurong is indeed problematic. I originally planned to follow him today to see if there was anything strange about him, but he was very cautious. He cultivated diligently the whole day and didn't do anything out of the ordinary. After that, I asked some people in the academy who were closer to him, and guess what? He likes Chu Xianmin. Hearing this name, Chu Liyue raised her eyebrows. Although he never told anyone, I heard that he had a hangover on the day Chu Xianmin married the crown prince. This Ji Yurong is usually an especially honest and introverted person, and has always been well-behaved. Why did he do such a thing on that day? Chu Luiyue glanced at the medicine in the square cauldron and asked, "What's the relationship between the two of them?" I find this very strange too. There's almost no interaction between the two of them. You know that Chu Xianmin and I don't like each other, but I've never seen Ji Yurong speak up for her. If I didn't find out about his hangover, I really wouldn't have known that he was interested in Chu Xianmin. You're tuning in to the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.